Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I think we're actually live in Twitter Spaces. Good morning.
Good morning, Banana. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Just drinking my coffee, waking up a little bit.
All right. I see people are piling in. We already have 3 people on YouTube, at least. Lemonade, Free X Band, and Karen Clark. Glad to have you guys here. And Cows. You must be dropping it in the Telegram.
Yeah, just got it done.
Right on. Well, you know what I've been thinking this morning is that we're probably going to have, I don't like to make forward projections, but I do like to be optimistic. And so many times on Saturdays, we get a little pump. So I'm thinking we're going to get a little pump today. Hopefully a big one.
Yeah, hopefully not a little pump. Hopefully a big pump.
Yeah. I mean, already, like Bitcoin is up 2%. Ethereum is up 5%. Pulse 4%. PulseX 7%. I mean, they're all the ones, all the tickers that I track are in the green today. pTGC is up 1%. UFO up 5%. So it's already a good day.
Yeah, definitely. To see how this month closes out. All right, how Bitcoin closes out this month, how Ethereum closes out this month, how the main tokens on PulseChain, the larger ones, close out this month. Because for this bull market, I think we've had 4 red candles in a row, which I believe has never happened in a bull market. So it's time to throw a green candle in the mix.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, we did. We have 4 red candles on Pulse. Let's see how Ethereum and Bitcoin did. Probably the same.
Yeah, the interesting thing is even in a bear market, right? Like you'll have 4 red candles, but then you'll have a green candle, right? It's not ever just straight down. There's always those, little bit of recoveries that happen in the mix. So I'd be very surprised if we ended up with another red candle, even if we're bullish from here or bearish from here. I do think there is a need for a little bit of recovery, which again is nice for our system. We want everything bouncing up and down, generating us revenue.
Yeah. Actually, Ethereum had 5 red candles in a row. And Bitcoin, oddly, had 2. It's crypto. They're unpredictable to a certain extent.
Yeah, is this month the 5th red candle, the one we're in right now?
For which token?
Ethereum.
Let me get back on that chart. Yes. Yeah. I haven't been impressed with Ethereum this cycle. I'll be just really plain and obvious about it. I'm just like, I don't know what's going on with it. It's just not behaving the way I would anticipate for the number of X's that I thought that we could get this cycle.
Yeah, what's your thought behind that? Why do you think that's going on?
Okay. I will. Let's see. I think we have 2 large players that are affecting the economy. Okay, we have a new administration, And I think somehow, I think he's very excited. This is just all my opinion. And I get little snippets from other people, but nothing really concrete. But I can kind of look around and see what might be happening. And this is the opinion that I've been forming, is that I think that the president is excited about crypto. And if he is, I think he wants to, and I know his mentality and his mindset, I think he probably wants to do very well at crypto. If he has the ability to suppress the market, the economy, and the crypto market, then he will do so that he can gain an entry. And I think perhaps he has been doing that in the broader crypto, and that has been affecting Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's my hunch. And of course, the other large player would be Richard Hart. And both of these guys are extreme. I mean, when they walk into the room, everybody notices. Even if you didn't know they were the president or Richard Hart, when they walk in the room, there's just their chemistry. They're very, very strong characters. And one is the president and the other is the founder of the chain that we're riding on. And I wouldn't put it past either of them to be pulling strings. What are your thoughts on why?
Well, I think for one, it's not doing well right now because the market's not performing well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think Bitcoin obviously was performing really well until the markets kind of took a turn. Like the stock markets and stuff. Obviously, gold is still doing really, really well. But so I think that's probably the biggest thing. I think there's a few things lining up, though. Like another one being the fact that I don't really see a lot of people building on Ethereum anymore. And I do think one of the big reasons why Ethereum was so successful was because so many good devs were building on top of Ethereum, putting these very unique, solid products on top of Ethereum, right? So then you had to get Ethereum to get these very good products. I always kind of talk about like the reason people go to a blockchain is not necessarily for the blockchain. It's for a specific asset that's built on top of that blockchain.
Yep.
And I feel like there just isn't a lot of those very unique, special assets getting built on Ethereum at the moment. I think obviously there's competitor blockchains, like is a big narrative this cycle is, a lot of people are building their own blockchains now. A lot of that due to how expensive the gas prices got last cycle, right? Hence why PulseChain exists, is it became too expensive for Hex. So the solution was to fork Ethereum and, put Hex over here with cheaper fees. So but I think it's a combination of things. I am excited for the markets to pick back up sooner or later, whenever that happens, because the markets do always pick back up. It is a gradual trend to the up and to the right. And when those do pick up, I do think Ethereum will have some good times. And since we're so correlated to Ethereum on PulseChain, I think that will equal some good times for PulseChain. And then, water flows downhill, that equals good times for pTGC and UFO as well. That doesn't mean we can't get good times in the meantime, though, right? Just keep working in the right direction, and we can get good amounts of X's without the help of anything. That's the nice thing about being such a small and tight community is, we can just work hard and bump ourselves up 10x from here. Market's unneeded.
Yes. And we've proven that to be possible. Just, doing our 30 or 40x over the layer one in the last year.
Exactly. That's the best example. Like the blockchain is technically at a lot lower price in the last year. I think if you go to the chart of PulseChain and look at the price it was at this time last year comparatively to where it is right now, it's probably 80% cheaper.
Yeah, I think it's I want to say, I was working on this yesterday. I think it's like a 1.6x lower than it was.
So 60%?
something like that. I don't remember the time frame, but it was a comparison to last year.
Yeah, so let's just say 60% cheaper. But then if you measure pTGC, it's, I don't know what it is. It sounds like you ran a number, but let's say it's 30x. So we've done a 30x when the thing that we're built on has come down 60%. I wonder how much in that same time frame Ethereum is up or down as well, because I think that's important information as well. But what that shows you is even with the current going against us, with strong effort, you can swim against it, right? It's obviously difficult, but that's one of the best things about being, a sub token on a blockchain is you're not completely dependent on just the blockchain or other people working for you. Like our community kind of steps up and works for itself, and we have plenty of growth that we can do on our own. Obviously, the chart kind of shows that, and that's one thing I love, right? You have your future somewhat in your own hands, right? Like we can't control the market. We can't control Trump. We can't control RH. We can't control PulseChain. We can work for PulseChain, right? Like we can educate people on it. We can onboard one by one. But the cool thing about pTGC is you literally have the destiny of your future in your own hands, or in our community's hands. And I find that very empowering to actually have control of our own success to an extent. Again, RH could pump PulseChain, and that will give us so many more X's than we could do on our own because of his unlimited resources / markets going up, right? Those are all just mega boosters to the story. But in the meantime, like we have so much growth that we can do on our own. And that growth now, let's say we get another 10x without the markets helping us at all. Well, when the markets come to help us, let's say it's a 10x, well, the 10x that we did from our hard efforts and then the 10x from the markets, well, now the pTGC holders today are sitting on a 100x from these levels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that pTGC did about a 50 or 60x from this time last year. It was 400 and no, it was 472%. So it might be like a 5 or 6. I think that's a 5x. I always have to look at the conversion. I think that's a 5x.
Yeah, 472% is over a 5x. But are you saying, because I know since August we're up 11x right now, because I know in August we hit 1-to-1 against Pulse.
Yep.
You're saying pTGC, right? Sorry.
Yes, pTGC.
Yeah, so on the year we're definitely up over 11x. I don't know exactly what our price was this time last year, but I know definitely since August against PulseChain we're up 11x.
Yeah, let me get a. Right. Well, since April we're up 6x. If that makes sense. I mean, that's what it says on here on the chart on Deck Screener. But whatever, we're up a number of X's.
Yeah. Oh, you're looking at the prices I was talking about against Pulse.
Oh, okay.
Right? Yeah.
Okay. All right. That explains it. Well, we had some cool developments this week as an ecosystem.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say that's definitely something to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, we got the new logo is on Deck Screener. It looks nice. It was a nice, refreshing change. Now which is not to say that the other logo didn't look good, because it did. I mean, the Grays currency started with a fabulous looking logo, in my opinion. But this one it's simpler. It really is. It's just very simple. It's a gold circle with an alien skull and eyes in the middle. Literally like 3 different elements to the whole logo. Well, in addition to the ticker symbol pTGC. So,
yeah,
and
there's a couple variations of it. I'll put those out later. You know, we have like the variation with the gold circle and just the head in it. We have a variation that's literally just the head. We have the variation that's just the head and then pTGC written on the right side of it, right? Just depending on what unique circumstance you have. The reason I only put like the 2 out, like the one with the head and the ticker symbol, is I do think these are the main ones, and I kind of want those to be the ones that are on Dex Screener and Dex Tools for the uniformity.
Yeah.
But we do have a couple fun variations of it that we got done too that I'll put out eventually once people kind of get that, like, hey, these are the main ones, but we do have a couple alterations of it to use too.
Yeah, that can be used in certain instances, you know, whatever people decide. But that's not to say we didn't get we got a new UFO logo also, and it looks really good. And it's a green ring around a UFO, a green UFO, and then the ticker symbol also in green, UFO with an alien head inside of the O. And both of them look fabulous in my opinion. So we'll show the one there's the one on Dex Screener. Looks great.
One thing that, you know, was kind of the goal with this is pTGC was obviously, that logo was probably created 4 years ago, right? Or more. And UFO came out, probably that logo was probably created a year ago now. And they didn't really have much uniformity to them.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was kind of important to get them uniform because I think they're so related to each other. They're both our main ecosystem tokens, and we talk about them so much together that I felt like their logos should show that they're part of the same ecosystem and the same branding. Mm-hmm. I also felt like, you know, not to bash the pTGC one at all, but there was so much going on in it. In a large image, it was kind of cool to see, you know, it saying the Grace currency and like all the little details of it. But a lot of times in crypto, it's just like a small circle. Like you can't actually see any of the detail, and you couldn't even really make out that it was an alien head. And I feel like the branding of the alien head is super important to our ecosystem. Like I think it's a super fun mascot that we need to lean on. And as we make our way up into the top 100 tokens, 50 tokens, I really want our ecosystem to have the mascot of the alien, right? I feel like that mascot's worth so much, and we're so lucky to have that mascot. This is my personal opinion, obviously, because that's why I built the protocol around the mascot of aliens. But I think that mascot is such a great mascot that's yet to be really tapped into in the industry. And I want it to be known that it's our mascot, right? When we do get top 100, top 50, I want it to be blatantly obvious that these are the space-themed protocols, UFO and pTGC. Their logo is obviously this vibrant, easy-to-read alien head. Because sometimes it felt like you're just looking at like a gold coin. You know what I mean? Because some of the details in the old logo were so hard to read. You know, another little detail, if you look at this banana, if you pull up the UFO logo, where UFO is written out, the pTGC's alien head is actually in the O of UFO, which again kind of just leans on the cohesiveness. Is I wanted them to work together and show that they're part of the same ecosystem, not be so different as far as design goes.
Yeah, there you go. Excellent. Well, Well done to whoever art directed that and designed it. It's great. I love it. And if you guys want, if you have Telegram, if you have the Telegram, what is it? The Blue Star, which is the paid account, you can get the spinning logo and put it next to your handle on Telegram. It's pinned. It's pinned in the Telegram, in the Gray's Currency Telegram. Or if you need it DM'd, I can DM it to you guys. And that way, whenever you're in other Telegram groups, we're like literally marketing. It's pretty cool. And if you want the one that I got for YouTube for videos, if you need that one, I can get you that one also.
Yeah, and actually on this topic, it wasn't even really my idea to change it at start. It was a community member who has a lot of marketing expertise that reached out to me and suggested making the change. And I was kind of already mentally working on a new version of the website. And I was like, you know what, since I'm working on the new version of the website, I don't want to have to make this change later on. Like, this does feel like the right time to do this rebrand. Because personally, I think a rebrand is somewhat difficult, right? It's a little, I feel like some people fight it a little bit and they're like, hey, we're happy with the old one. So you're never going to make anyone happy. But I felt like with the new website, it was the right time to hit that rebrand. And the points he was bringing up to me is pretty much the points that I just brought up to everyone here. It made a lot of sense. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to listen to this community member. I'm going to really look into this. And once I looked into it, it kind of was like, yeah, he's right. This might be a good move for us right now.
Right on.
What do you think of the little bit of snips of the website?
I liked it. Naturally, I like to see improvements.
I want the criticism.
Yeah, let me pull it up, because did you notice a little hesitation in my voice?
Well, I think everyone will have some good, like, before this one goes live, like I'm gonna really beat it down a little bit longer than the other ones, because our other ones will always still be live, right? So we're not at a race of like, hey, we need to get this product out, because our current one functions 100% completely fine. My goal was to just, at the end of this, have the end-all be-all awesome, better website for usability. So we're not in a race of like, hey, a website's down, because I'm never even going to replace the old one. I'm just going to create the new one, create a new URL, replace the links on DexTools, DexScreener. The other one will be live together also as a backup, or if anyone doesn't even want to switch to the new one, they prefer the old one. So this one, I'm going to really try to like get it to a level that I think is decent, and then kind of put it out there to our community for suggestions before it's live, right? Because I know we're going to have tons of suggestions.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like, I know Snowflake, and I don't mean to call Snowflake out, he made a comment on it saying, hey, let's change the background color a little bit. And if you're listening, Snowflake, DM me really what you meant on that, so I can kind of make those tweaks, because I didn't fully understand. I think it said make it a little bit more black. But that's what I'm open to, right? Like, I want to hear what everyone thinks, not only on like design side, but if there's any features or stats that we want to get in there, or stuff that we need kind of changed as far as claiming, staking. Like, I'm really trying to hit everything that we were wanting, right? That we've kind of talked about here and there in the last year and a half, but some of it didn't get put into effect. Some of it did. I want to get all that stuff put into this one.
Okay. Do we need to go ahead?
Yeah, I just really like the black background. I think the brown, I obviously haven't seen the site in its entirety, but I think the brown's a little muted. Just my personal take. I like the darkness of the original.
do you think that there can still be, because it was more supposed to be closer to gold, right? Not, I guess, so much brown, but it definitely comes off a little brown. Do you think just toning it down a little bit would be good?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, I see what you mean. I think gold would be a good accent. I just think it's a little overwhelming.
Okay. Yeah, that was kind of the play of like, hey, the website between UFO and pTGC, each version was going to feel the exact same. Like you switch from UFO and pTGC, but all of the information there was the same, just with different data, right? So you land on the pTGC one, and there's the pTGC stats, pTGC calculate, but they're all kind of in the same spot. But when you land there, the whole theme, like the accent, turns to the gold. And then when you land on UFO, all the accents turn to the green. But maybe that gold just doesn't hit as well as the green, right? I think you made that comment, like the UFO one feels great.
Yeah, I mean, my initial impression was that. I don't know. I'm just so used to having that black background.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll play with it a little bit more. I definitely want the inputs for sure. The thing is, if it ends up not being what someone likes, we're going to keep the old site live forever. So it's you don't have, like, someone doesn't necessarily have to use this new version, because sometimes, like, for an old user, it's hard to like change what you've been using for a year and a half, right? You kind of just are like, hey, I kind of like the old one. I've been clicking these buttons for a year and a half now.
I've got two ideas I'd like to share.
Go for it.
First, instead of choosing a color, maybe having user customizable themes where you can have different colors, sky or sea or brown desert or whatever. You could have different themes so people can just play with them themselves if color scheme matters to them. And then another idea that I would like to see is on the locking. So currently, when you lock pTGC, it says how much you've locked, when you start date, when you end date, and how much you claim. But that claimable number is actually subject to your lock period. So if you lock for only a year, you actually don't get all of that. Is that correct, or is that
correct? Yeah,
okay,
correct.
So in the system, I'd like to see maybe another column or your claimable share. So if you're claiming, if you have 100,000 claimable locked, but you've only locked for a year, so you should only get, I forget the number, maybe 50% of that. And it says your claimable share is not 30,000, but 15.
Correct. That is correct. Yes.
So currently the site doesn't say that. So you say, oh my goodness, I got 30. Cool, it's claim, and then only 15 show up or whatever it is, because it runs to the algorithm. Maybe if the site
that's exactly that's exactly
clear
what
enough.
I'm looking for, because that's a really simple add in this process. So I think the best way to go about it is I'm going to have them kind of put this whole thing together. It's not completely together yet. And when it's kind of all put together, we're going to put tons of notes on it, right? Like, we'll mark this thing up and kind of add everything that we're looking to get added onto it for the first revision of it. But yeah, that's a simple add that I think they can implement no problem.
And then also, when you go to claim your locks, let's say I have like 6 locks. I did some for 1 year, some for 2 years, or whatever. Can you add a claim all button?
I think so. Also, I don't want to say for sure, but I'm pretty sure that can be implemented as well.
Because I know on the UFO side you can claim them all, but on the pTGC side you can't. Yeah, definitely. With UFO, I don't know because I obviously let them know I wanted that before the code was done.
So, but I don't think that matters, right? I think it can just be a UI thing that claims them all for you.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that can be implemented as well.
Yep. Kong did it on look into ptgc.com.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, it's possible.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks for bringing those up. And if anyone has anything, if maybe we want to create a spreadsheet of some kind, like Banana, and just as they come in, we just keep throwing the notes on the spreadsheet, right? So they don't get forgotten about. Because I'm even subject to this. I've heard stuff for the last year and a half, and I've even thought oh, that's a good idea. Next time I, go into the website and do updates, I'm going to implement that. But then I don't even remember more than half of them now, probably. So.
Yeah, I'm guilty of the same thing. Yeah, I can make a spreadsheet and share it with you. And I can share it in the Telegram, and everybody can put their requests in there if you want to do it that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to put up every request is not going to get hit, guys, but I will do everything I can to, get everything included that people are looking for. One of the more recent ones is, hey, we want to see what the total share rates are. So we can see how many share rates we have to what the total is and do our math. These are a couple little things that I've taken notes of, but I know there's hundreds more, and I want to get them all implemented here. So we have it all.
Yeah. Yes. And I, from a user perspective, having this data is something that makes this ecosystem attractive to me. I almost like to get to the point where there's too much information, because I want information. As a user, I like to filter out what works for me, but I like to have access to all of it.
Yeah. I think it depends on the user, right? You're super data driven. So you're kind of digging after that data to where some users aren't really data driven. Some users might really just love the alien theme, the fact that it has memeability. And I also feel like that's the importance of the old site as well, is if the person is more on that line and doesn't really necessarily want all the data, it seems like it'd be overwhelming to them. The old site will always be there to just send them to the really alien themed site, right? To where they see the big alien popping up, spinning the coin.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
Something else I'd like to bring up, if you can hear me.
I hear you.
Okay. Is I've seen on the website, on the DAO Treasury, those numbers don't match what some people are posting on the Telegram or the Twitter feed. So I don't know why they don't match. They say, hey, we had 10 million in here, but we really have 25 million or something like that. I'm not sure what I'm missing there, but maybe the site could be more clear. Yeah,
that's another thing we probably need to add to the DAO. So what the site is showing is what is available for proposals, right? So that's what's literally available to create a proposal on right now. I think it's around 5 billion. But you have to realize there's roughly 20 proposals going on every week, putting out 100 million pulse, because each proposal is worth 100 billion pulse. So every single one of those proposals also has PLS in it. So what the people in the Telegram are posting is between what's available and what's in those proposals is the total amount of PLS in the DAO smart contract. You get what I'm saying?
I kind of, but I see what you're saying. Is that every time a proposal is put up, a allocation of the DAO Treasury is allocated to that proposal, so it brings it down? Is that what I'm
correct? Yes.
Okay.
So then it doesn't visually show up there because someone actually can't go in and try to make a proposal if someone else has already created a proposal for those funds, right? Two people can't go and try to access the same funds. So it puts it into a separate category when that proposal is pending. If the proposal fails, it goes back into the category as far as accessible funds, right? And that's what that's showing right there is what funds are actually accessible for proposals. When someone creates a proposal for it, it goes into the next category, which is in a proposal, and then it goes on for 7 days. And if that proposal passes, the funds are claimable to the user who created the proposal's wallet.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking more.
I think on the new version, we need to say like, hey, this is total in smart contract. This is what's pending or what's accessible for proposals currently, right? Give both those numbers.
Yeah, because it's a good marketing tool to show that they've got so much money allocated or allocatable to different plans or projects.
Correct. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's definitely the reason why, someone built that spreadsheet is because most people aren't like digging deep enough to see all that. They're just seeing what's on the site. So he, obviously started putting that together to really show people, hey, technically there's more funds here than what meets the eye.
I'm not sure if someone's already said too, but one thing that I would like to see is sort on the locking of pTGC being a sortable, whether it be by start date, end date, the user be able to kind of sort those metrics, by amount, rewards, and toggle through however they want to sort the chart themselves.
Sort all your locks, like if you wanted to put them in different
yeah, like if you wanted to sort it by, hey, I want to see from largest to smallest the amount I started with, or you could even sort by the rewards pending or the start date or the end date, kind of like the hex locking.
Yeah, I can look into that. I'll look at hexes and see what options they have. If there's like 3 different options, price or quantity, claimable, date, and I forget the other one you were saying.
Yeah, my main preference would just be like being able to toggle it to sort it by start date or end dates.
Yeah, because right now it sorts by just creation, right?
Correct.
In order of your creation.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure that's something we can add as well.
Freakspan says with the new website and Rabby dropping support, it isn't as big of a deal because of the new site, and that's a valid point. It helps.
What helps? Sorry.
The new site build, with the loss of Rabby supporting us and DBank having a site like this where it's more robust and you can see more information, it just helps with the grays currencies specifically,
Yeah, definitely the more information we can provide, the better, without overwhelming people, or at least putting the data behind like blocks of some sort to where they're not open up in front of your face unless you want to access them, would be the goal. Like, hey, if you want to dive deeper, here you go. Yeah, we were also trying to think of ways to incorporate, now that Rabby's made it so difficult to even see like what's in your wallet, etc. Something that kind of, when you're connected to the site, also
I'll get to you guys as questions.
Some of the assets in your PulseChain network wallet as well.
Eventually.
So when you're on the site, you are able to not only see everything that's associated with pTGC, but it also gives you the ability to have a better visual of the assets actually in your wallet, right? Because I think that's the easier hurdle. The harder hurdle is also showing like transactions, because I believe The amount of data you have to pull off of PulseChain is extreme due to the amount of transactions that are actually happening on the chain. I'm trying to figure out if doing it just user by user instead of tracking all the data unless they want to pull up the data might not take so much, right? And I think that would make our website really, really user friendly for users. When they're on our website, they get to see like, hey, look at, I received this, or I sent this transaction. I see it right here. I see what's in my wallet all on the pTGC website. And it would also probably make our website a little bit more sticky as well.
Yeah. How do users know if they can make a proposal? Is there a proper ranking somewhere? I can answer this one. This is Steven's question. If you connect your wallet to the dApp, the site that we're talking about, actually we're talking about the new one, but connect it to pulsetgc, which is the current site, and go to, if you click on DAO and then select make a proposal, scroll down a little bit, you'll see the number of, you'll see all the top 100 wallets populate. And if you scroll down to the bottom of that, then you can get some idea what how much pTGC you have to have staked in order to be in the top 100. And that in the top, only the top 100 stakers can make proposals, but all stakers can vote on proposals.
Yeah, I think you don't even, like, you can go and check your rank in that list, but I think even if you just go to create proposal or whatever and you land on that page, it will just straight tell you if you're not in the top 100 as well.
Okay.
Like it just won't let you create it.
Okay, cool. Adi makes the point. He says volume right now is scary low. He says it's low. Buyers not existing right now. Any thoughts? I do have some thoughts. Let me get this pulled up. Let's first look at the top 100. So the 99th, the 100th wallet has 310 million pTGC in it right now. So he's the 100th staker, so he can create a proposal, and they go up in number of tokens from 310 million, that 100th wallet, and go all the way up to the top. So if you can get into the top 100, then you can make proposals. Now to Adi's point about volume being, I would say it's low. I don't know about scary low, but it is low right now at this period in time. But let's look at let's look at the volume actually. What do you know what the volume is right now, Zen?
I think it's around 150 with pTGC, 150K, and I think UFO is around 40, 45K.
Exactly. Okay. So let's go back to my records. Let's look at July of 2024. pTGC's average daily volume was 27,000. UFO's average daily volume was 36,000. In March, pTGC's average daily volume was 425,000, and UFO's average daily was 370,000. Now, I don't believe that we're going to drastically, reduce in volume on average to July's volume. I don't think that's, and I can prove that. That is not even happening right now in the month of April. But yes, volume.
Do you have the average for the month of April so far? And
yes. Yeah, I can get it. Give me a second. I'll get my eyes on it. We only have like 12 days, but we can definitely get it. UFO. Okay, UFO. Let's start with, I got my eyes on UFO volume. UFO's volume for April has averaged, just a second, 94,000. 94,000. And it was, what was it, like 30,000 in July? Something like that. I think it was 30,000. Now let me get pTGC's volume. It must be over here. Maybe I'm hiding the column.
When the word scary low, I almost look at it as far as like an opposite effect, right? Like when volume starts to slow down, when you're getting close to lower levels, that usually means you're finding a bottom, right? And I think that's kind of occurring with the PulseChain market in general. So PulseChain's volume is a little bit down right now. If you look at PulseChain and PulseX and Hex and Inc., like a lot of people aren't trading those assets right now, and those are what we're heavily connected with. That's where a large majority of our volume gets generated from. Those are all low as well. And then we're low as well. And you can see our volume is kind of ticked down a little bit. What that usually shows, if you study the past, is that shows where the floor is of pTGC.
Yeah.
And at times where the volume's been low, but what that usually is telling us is we're coming close to a move up. This has happened 2 times in the past. PulseChain has come to lows and volume slowed down for a week or so, or, I think even in the past a month. But then what that does is that creates the floor. And then when markets have a slight push back up, that's where it kind of explodes off of that level, right?
Yeah.
So I don't even look at it necessarily as scary low. I think of it as somewhat of a refreshing low. Like, this is kind of finding the low. The scary part, right? I don't even say it's scary. The negative side of it is we want volume, right? The volume is what's making the machine thrive. That's what's paying the APY. That's what's generating the buy and burns. That's what's, adding LP with every transaction. So we definitely want volume, but we have to look at sometimes the silver lining to it. Okay, the volume is slowing down and we're at these lower levels. That's probably showing us that PulseChain and pTGC and UFO are founding a foundation low. And this is the level that we're going to start building off of. And it's going to either be a push on PTGC or push on UFO market-wise, or just a general push on PulseChain or the markets that spark it back up. And this isn't the first time this has happened. This is, the 4th time this has happened with PTGC. So to me, it's kind of like, okay, we've studied the history. We know what happens in this event, right? Volume slows down. This kind of creates the floor. Yeah, we want that to happen. We want to create the floor and have tons of volume. Like, that's perfect scenario, but that's just not what markets do, right? Usually they kind of round off at the bottom and everything slows down. Usually people get a little negative and stuff like that. But then there's something that kind of sparks it back up again, and then everything picks back up. Right?
Yep. So, good answer, thorough answer. And so the average, PTDC's average volume so far in April is $270,000 per day. So I hope that helps, D. And let's look at the monthly data because, Zen, did you watch the video that I published yesterday?
I don't think so. Which one was published yesterday?
Well, I'll drop it in the chat on YouTube, but it goes into this. It's like an 8-minute video, and we talked about, what was the context? Well, anyhow, we talked about I compared the volume of July to where it is right now. And we talked about this on Spaces last week and how the price has, we'll say a 10x, and the volume has also about 10x. So we're making the same yield. I'm using very general terms. We're making about the same yield, but that yield is worth 10 times more compared to, if you compare July to March.
Yeah, you're saying quantity of tokens is actually the same, but the worth of that token is 10x more.
Yes.
Yeah. And PulseChain, you have to realize, is technically at lower levels than it was in July. Like, I forget what the exact price of PulseChain is, but you have to take into consideration that as well, right? That's sucking the prices down of our assets. That's also sucking the prices down of our liquidity, which when prices of your liquidity get sucked down, that's sucking down the dollar value of your volume.
Right. So I just dropped that video in the chat. It's titled "What PTDC and UFO Holders Have Been Earning," because somebody reached out to me yesterday. I think they were new, and they're like, "What can I expect to earn by holding PTDC?" And so, because we had just talked about it, it was fresh in my mind. I'm like, "Hey, I think I can give some credible answer based on the history of this wallet that I've been tracking." Bishop.
Yes. So one thing I find interesting about this is like, I know it's not a perfect linear like equation. Nothing really is perfectly linear, but it's actually adding up more linear than I think people realize, right? Like the fact that we can actually make not future prediction guarantees, but hypotheses off of some of the previous data that we have and the current data that we're in right now. And we can somewhat make predictions of what the future holds for PTDC, right? We can make very modest predictions based on PulseChain just doing a 10x, or we can make extreme predictions off of PulseChain being a really successful blockchain, right? And the easiest example is, like you were saying, like as the price of PTGC goes up 10x, as we've seen in the last 8 months, we've seen volume tick up 10x. Okay, well, that's actually very valuable information because that's very linear. So what happens if PTGC does a 10x from here? Oh, well, then we can actually make the assumption that volume can 10x from here. Well, what's a 10x to our volume from these levels? Well, Banana just said it's roughly $200,000 a day in volume today. Well, then that equals $2 million in volume when the price of PTGC just 10x's.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what happens, and it's not, I'm not saying this is perfectly linear, right? The future will tell what it really is. But what happens if PTGC does a 100x? And again, we've actually explained how easy it is to do a 100x because of how undervalued PulseChain is. That's PulseChain just going up to its old all-time high, which would be a 10x on PulseChain, and that's PTGC just doing a 10x against PulseChain, which is what it's done since August already, right? We've done this a ton of times already. But if you 100x our volume today, the average volume today, you're sitting at $20 million of volume happening every single day. You get what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
that's just linearly. Like that's just with the blockchain being successful. We've done some of the equations. I think what it was is if we just have $5 million a day in volume, so that would be 4x less than what this linear prediction is. Let's say it's kind of S-curvy, right? Like it goes up and it kind of dwindles down near the top. That's fine too, because just at $5 million a day, that we've done the math for what the APY is, but we've also done the math of what the buy and burns are. I think the buy and burns were. Do you remember what that number was, Banana?
No.
It was on your cards. That
Oh,
card
120. Are you talking about the 128 million?
Yeah.
Yep. I think it was at. I think that was based.
That was $5 million of daily volume, right?
I think it was 10 million.
Maybe 10 million. I would have to look at your slide deck. I think it's in there.
Yeah.
But for an example, so that would be 2x less than what we're saying right now. 2x less than 100x on PulseChain, or 100x on PTGC, which could be a 10x on PulseChain and 10x on PTGC. Very easy way to get 100x from these levels. Well, we could be sitting around, even not linearly, this is S-curvy where we kind of top off, buying and burning $128 million of PTGC yearly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it really, like, you almost don't even want to do the math linearly, even though all the math previously is adding up to it happening linear, because the numbers start to, like, freak you out.
Yes, they do.
Oh my gosh, like, if this blockchain is remotely successful, PTGC and UFO become some of the largest assets in all of crypto. And that's not with manipulated market cap games. That's not with liquidity that isn't paired to real assets. Like, that's with some of the largest liquidity in all of blockchain. with actual RH tickers, right? Like not pair this with this and, you know, those kind of games. It's like it's real assets backed by real value. And then on top of that, the market cap isn't manipulated, right? It's the market cap's what the market cap is. But then you take into consideration what happens if you get an asset like pTGC and UFO into the top 50 ranking of all crypto. Well, that's one of the big reasons why we did the branding upgrade. We're getting ourselves ready to be in that top 50. We want that alien head just shining at everyone on the top listing sites and them asking, like, what is this alien theme token that came out of nowhere? I can blatantly see what it is. We're capturing probably the best mascot in all of crypto. But then when they see, you know, in the example of 120 million, let's just even rewind it. Let's say it's $100,000 a day of buying burns. I personally don't know of an asset that exists that's doing $100,000 a day of buying burns. But mechanically, ours could just do that automatically forever.
Yes.
If we get PulseChain and pTGC to the levels that we believe are possible. And it's actually very easily obtainable. We're such a small cub. That's what's so beautiful and so unique to like us all being here in this space is like we control our destiny 100%. There is variables dependent on PulseChain. But let's get our 10x ready, right? This is what I was talking about this in July when I really started explaining the X multiplier to people. I'm like, hey, we can't really control what RH does or what PulseChain does. And we can help, like we want to help onboard. But in the meantime, how we're going to help onboard is let's get pTGC up another 10x from here without the help of PulseChain. Let's do that, you know, as soon as possible. So then when PulseChain comes in, we've already done all the X's that we need to do for our 100X. Now PulseChain just goes to all-time highs. We're at 100X from these levels, and our machine is, like we said, possibly generating $128 million a year in buy-in burns. Even if you go to the low end of that, that's a machine that's buying and burning 100K of its supply daily.
No, wow. That would be welcome. I'd love that.
I think anyone in the ecosystem would love it, right? Even if you're not even holding pTGC, if you get over the fact that you don't hold it, you missed out on some awesome gains, and you look at it just as the aspect of, hey, this is a really good asset that we have on chain that users have to come to PulseChain to participate in, it helps with the onboarding process of PulseChain. Not to mention that we're buying tons of RH tickers and pairing them in LP pools and burning the LP for us to never sell again. Like, that's bullish as hell for PulseChain just on its own.
Bishop asks, do the taxes for pTGC and UFO work with Balancer? I don't know what Balancer is. Do you?
Balancer is pretty much, I guess you could call it a form of a DEX. It's a different kind of LP situation. Pretty much fee on transaction tokens don't work in certain type of DEXs. Where they thrive in particularly is just on V2 style DEXs like PulseXs. Because of the fee on transaction, like Balancers and V3 liquidity, stuff like this, they kind of operate in a different fashion to where they're kind of using the tokens over and over again. I don't know the best way to explain it, but it doesn't happen evenly like it happens on V2 liquidity. I'm a big V2 liquidity person. I personally think it's better than V3. I think V3 has its own perks. Like you can do single-sided LP. You can exit out of positions very easily. You can exit into positions very easily. So it's better for the user, but I don't actually think it's better for the product personally.
Okay. Did we pair with the new PDI? We didn't, did we? I don't remember. I don't think we did. And somebody in the comments is asking why we paired with the new PDI. I'll look at
I
Sapito
didn't hear anything the new PDI. I don't even know which one the real PDI is at this, or the new PDI is at this point.
Okay, sounds like it sounds like some misinformation that's been going around. So, yeah, Stephen, if you could, address whoever you heard that from, it's just simply not true. Go to secretobank.com and you can see the pairs, or you go to Dex Screener and pull up PTDC and look at.
You might be talking about, we created a small pair with the real DAI, like the DAI from Ethereum, the stable coin, like the actual DAI.
Okay.
Not with much. We kind of just want to bring in information to see what kind of volume that actual pair is generating, so we can start planning out what we can do in the future as far as when the market does get near tops. We want to be tracking this data and have actual data to lean back on, because let's say 6 months from now, a year from now, we are near a top of a bull market. We want to actually see what these actual stablecoin pools are actually generating in revenue, to see if that's a good place to allocate funds near the top of markets for value generation sources in a downtrend, right? So that might be what he's talking about. That's not the new DAI or copy DAIs or whatever. That's the legitimate real DAI.
Yep. I see it on secretobank.com. It's $23,000 in liquidity.
What's the volume on that right now?
$1,075. Let's see.
5%.
5% of what?
That's the ratio.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of what I kind of look at with the pairs, especially the smaller ones. Like what, and since I have Snowflake here, I don't know if this is an easy ad. Don't gotta do it. But if there was a way to show,
thanks for bringing that up, Stephen. I didn't know that.
Volume
cool
to quantity of liquidity, that would be really sick, because then we can see, based on the amount of liquidity, which one racially is actually generating the most volume. That's what I kind of do by hand, right? PLS is a hard one, because that one has a lot of the human interaction, and PulseX, because the auto router kind of really floods people towards actual RH tickers. But on some of the smaller ones, we can actually see which pairs are performing the best by comparing their liquidity to volume ratio. And the higher the ratio, the more that machine is actually generating based on its size.
Axel Pros asks, will the PDI PTDC pair reduce potential pumps on the WP on PTDC? I think is what he's getting after, considering if the FUD is true and whatnot.
I don't think it will. Pretty much a lot of the damage with PDI has already been done, and it was at like what did it even hit? $500 million market cap or something like that. I'm just guessing. I don't remember. And it's currently at like a $45 million market cap. You have to realize we had most of our liquidity with PDI when that was going down. We have now completely de-risked from our pairing with PDI, not because we don't want PDI people to win, not because we hope that narrative isn't true, specifically due to the reason that new information came out. The founder of the blockchain pretty much said, hey, remove liquidity. There's an exploit going on. You can look more into it. Some people have, but with PTGC's ecosystem, we're not willing to take, and we had a community discussion on this, right? It was like a 2-hour conversation. It's not worth, going down like the conspiracy theory of, hey, they're shaking us out. Hey, they're this. We're kind of just looking at the facts, of what we're being told by the PulseX dev and by the founder RH, and we're kind of just following suit with that. But to my point is, now we have very, very little liquidity with PDI. If PDI keeps going down, that liquidity will continue to shrink and shrink and shrink. And as RH tickers go up, that liquidity will grow and grow and grow. So what you're saying is, worst case scenario, RH tickers stay where they're at, or they go up and PDI goes down. very quickly that liquidity will turn into ultimately nothing compared to our general liquidity, and will have ultimately almost zero effect on our system. If PDI goes up, that liquidity will grow, right? These liquidity pools, I call it natural selection of liquidity pools. I call it the alpha pool. Your liquidity pool that's actually performing the best will become the biggest, right? If you, let's say, when UFO came out, let's say we made equal size pairs with 10 of the top tokens on PulseChain. All the RH tickers, at that time, PDI was a top token. At that time, you know, the old teddy bear was a top token. Now they're not, right? But if you just let it sit there forever, let's say a year goes by, they are not going to be worth the same value anymore, even though you started them at the same value. The liquidity pool that you have that will be the biggest will be your top performing asset that you're connected to. So let's say PulseX was the top performer. That would be your biggest liquidity pool, and that liquidity pool would have the most say over your ecosystem. It would have the most push over your ecosystem because it's the biggest. Your worst performing asset that you're connecting liquidity with will become the smallest. Let's say in this example, that is PDI, right? PDI's narrative dies, it goes down. Well, that liquidity pool will shrink and shrink and shrink, and that liquidity pool will have the least amount of impact over your system. So what happens naturally with liquidity is actually exactly what you want to happen. The asset that you're paired with that performs the best will have the most impact over your system. Obviously, we want that. The best performing asset, upside. And the worst performing asset will have the least amount of impact over your system. That's what we want. The worst performing assets to have the worst amount of, or least amount of impact over your system. So I think a lot of people kind of look into that small liquidity pair a little bit too much. I think they look at it because they're looking at protocols that have like 100K in liquidity total. And they're like, oh my God, that's a lot. Guys, we have $10 million of liquidity. That little pairing with PDI absolutely means nothing.
Mm-hmm.
If it does good, that's awesome for us because we're pretty much one of the only systems that does have liquidity with PDI. And it's burnt. We can't remove it. So pTGC is like in a spot to where how I look at it is if the narrative comes true and this was a big shakeout and, you know, he was trying to teach us a lesson to read the blockchain and not listen to him on Twitter, we win. If he's not shaking people out and he's literally telling people to get out, we win. Like it's like a game of like whatever direction it goes, we win.
Yeah, so, man. I love that.
And that's what the point is of de-risking, right? Like it became too risky to keep such large amount of capital in that spot. Let's be honest, like if information comes out in the future and this was some big shakeout and PDI goes actually to $1 and RH is behind it, I don't think he's doing that. I don't see why he would try to trick his whole community with Twitter tweets and stuff. Maybe he is. Like, I'm not saying I'm an expert in this space. We can always add liquidity back later. Mm-hmm. We have literally DAO funds rolling in hundreds of thousands or hundreds of millions of Pulse daily. So why would we risk the whole protocol now if we can de-risk now, live to fight another day, pair with some assets that we can visually see on the blockchain he's backing, like Most and Pump, and generate revenue off of those things.
Yep.
But yeah, to answer his question, it's definitely, you know, in the recent month, it's definitely been part of the reason that we've come down. Like, I'm not saying that's not true. We used to have literally at $1.7 million of liquidity with PDI alone with UFO. So if you could look at it now, like, hey, we've de-risked quite a bit. It's also gone down quite a bit, which is, you know, fine. It ultimately has very little impact over us now. But you have to realize we've generated revenue off of that pair for the last year and a half. We've generated so much value off of it. We haven't been adding to those pairs. We've actually been adding to PulseX and PEX, etc., and really building those up. And now we've de-risked a little bit, which, you know, if it goes up, we might kick ourselves in the butt a little bit, saying like, wow, RH was just tricking us. Maybe we should have looked more into it. But the thing is I don't think PTGC needs to bank on very risky conspiracies when the founder of the blockchain is literally telling you to remove liquidity. The product and the utility is so strong, we can just put those funds in other assets that are less risky, like Most, for an example, one he's blatantly became obviously pushing as his meme coin on chain, and let's generate revenue from that one instead.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And then, like I said, if this was a big trick to shake people out of PDI, we're pretty much one of the only people on chain that has a liquidity pool with it because it's burnt, and we'll win heavily from it.
Yeah. I have a comment about the new website. And this is somebody asked me this question. They're like, why, if LPing PTDC and UFO is probably not a very good deal, if you will, because you got to pay the taxes going in to that LP for both of those tokens. Why do we have that ability on the website? And are we going to include the ability to LP those two tokens on the new site?
Yes, we're going to include it. So you are hit with the fees on entry and exit, right? That's the big downfall. But if you want the PLS rewards and you care about the PLS rewards long term, we wanted to give our users the ability to still participate in that.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I think PTGC will be one of the top performers on chain. So we would want UFO to be paired with what possibly could be the top performer on chain. The machine that we actually know works, the machine that has what I believe one of the best utilities in crypto, right? We'll get Hart's Law from PTGC alone. Is PTGC the best value generation source for UFO? Absolutely not. Why? Because it's two fiat transaction tokens paired together, so there's not huge arbitrage opportunity. So we're not paired with it to actually generate revenue there. We're more paired with it to give users of our ecosystem the ability to earn PLS if they don't have tons of RH tickers, but they have tons of PTGC, while also pairing ourselves to what we believe will be one of the top assets on chain, Hart's Law. It's got some of the best liquidity on chain. Like when you look at the boxes you're looking to check, it's checking them. And that's not even biased because we are the creators of both. So yeah, it's the fiat transactions there. Every user needs to pick if they think it's worth paying that fiat transaction for the PLS. Do I recommend it? Absolutely not, right? I think you're better off just holding both UFO and holding PTGC and getting the APY that's written in the code of both of those assets. It actually probably adds up to more, but we wanted to give users the ability to make that decision on their own and put a little warning there if they are debating it but just don't know, right?
Right. I don't know if you caught this in the Telegram yesterday. I posted it, but I've been keeping record of the early end locks. Let me see. Let me get an eye on the date since about the end of December, and then I'm tracking the previous 30 days because last year we early end locked, as a community, 395 million PTDC on average per month. Well, in the last 30 days, this is yesterday, we hit a high since I've been keeping record, which was 999 million PTDC early end locked. I'm hoping to see 1 billion, honestly. So if we can hit that in a couple few days, and I'm not telling anybody to early end lock. I'm just saying, from this user's perspective, I'd like to see us break 1 billion in a 30-day period. Why? Just because it's a cool metric. But we literally got very close yesterday.
Yeah, but then I'll be straight up. I'm amazed with how much the locking is paying out. I'm amazed on how many people early unlock. I didn't think the APY from locking was going to be so high. it's a pleasant surprise since I'm locked. But yeah, I'm very happy with that, with the metrics of the locking. I mainly added the locking for a delayed gratification aspect of it. And, a lot of people probably wouldn't delay their gratification unless there was an additional APY incentive there for them. So this was the whole idea behind it. But I actually didn't realize that the APY behind it was going to be giving the staking APY a run for its money, right? So it's really like one of those things that you don't really know until you know, and I'm pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. So the lockers have been earning about a 3x in about the last week. 3x compared to last year. Yeah. The unlocks, early unlocks last year were pretty sporadic. But it's nice to have the daily record now because I really have my.
Interesting, Banana, real quick, is you're saying 3x in quantity of tokens, but you have to realize pTGC is like up 10x, right?
Yes.
So you're technically in dollar value receiving 30x this
Yeah.
last year locking than you did last year.
Yes.
Obviously, if you didn't sell your locking rewards, you did that 10x anyways, right? But some people do use these locking rewards as their like passive income to do other plays or live life.
You said the way you just said that, it's funny because if anyone that was in Hex early would understand this, and it'd be like a good flashback. But what you just said is exactly how Richard Hart and the Hexicans said the same thing about not only just T-shares and understanding T-shares, because the Hexicans actually didn't even understand T-shares when it first came out the way they do now. So don't even ever believe what they say they knew the whole time, because they absolutely did not, to the point where Richard Hart was saying 15-year stakes is kind of like pointless. So the whole 5-5-5-5, that's where that kind of came from. Because he was preaching 10 years because it's the exact same amount. But you also can hear, Richard Hart talking about how he's very surprised how the lock went to like 6 years and 7 years, and he was surprised how many people were delaying that gratification and the payouts that people were getting from it, where they were getting almost, it's advertised as 40%, but they were getting way more than that from doing that from the beginning. So when you just made that statement, it's like a literally exact concept. A little different, obviously, but it's just the idea that you create something and then you don't realize that, oh shit, like this is doing way better than I thought. And that's usually what happens when you create a product with good ideas backing it, and then it does better than what it's expected.
Yeah, I'll give you a little backstory on that, since we were kind of on this topic yesterday, B. I was telling you the story about like how I found Hex, right? That it was a family friend's brother-in-law that found out that I was into crypto, and he pretty much was a day one Hex guy and sent me down the RH rabbit hole. So this guy particularly was the reason I even designed the staking model within pTGC the way that I did, and the locking model the way I did. He locked out a portion of his Hex. I don't remember the exact dates, but let's say it was 8 years, right? And it was the majority of his Hex. And as I obviously was talking to him, he said he was so thankful for the delayed gratification, the locking of your Hex, because there would have been no way in hell he would have held on for the true 10,000 X if it was actually in his hands and not locked up. He said there would be 100%, it would have been 20X, and he would have just taken profits, right? He did have a good portion of his Hex, not like, I think it was like 20% or 10% or something like that he was tapping into constantly. Eventually that ran dry, and all he had left was his lock. But his lock is, probably still out 4 years or 3 years or something like that. I don't know. But the reason I designed pTGC in the way that I did with the staking as locking is in Hex, he was pretty much out of all of his liquid hex, and all of the rest of his hex was locked. So on paper, he was very, very wealthy, but he wasn't actually able to utilize any of that wealth until 8 years from now, or now 3 years from now. So the point is with pTGC and the staking and locking, I made it to where the rewards of your stake and your lock were claimable at any time. Because this family friend of mine, if he was just able to access the APY, he actually would have had never needed or will never need to access his stake or lock ever. Like, he would probably just keep compounding it forever. But the problem is, since he can't access any of that APY until his lock comes to its time date, I would bet my money on it as soon as that comes about, he's closing that down and most likely never relocking it again. And I do think this is the same thing with a lot of hex people. So what I figured is, hey, I'm going to give them more the ability to delay their gratification. I heard that they love this, and I've seen in real life this work very, very well. But I'm going to give them the ability to access their APY at any time, and the ability after your lock comes to its time date, you actually don't even need to close it down. There is no penalty. You can remain in it forever. We're not pushing people out the door, right? Let's keep them in the store. And that idea is pretty much, hey, let them access their APY. Let them live their life off of their yield. If this system is successful like we believe it will be, let's say at 100 X's from here, could you imagine what these APYs for people getting in today are going to be? It could be very, very large amounts that pretty much has a lot of people's bills covered on a monthly basis, and they actually don't need to close their lock or wait for something to come mature or anything.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet, because I've always said this with Hex, and that's why you can see, when I give my subscribers my portfolio, they just see Hex getting like less and less and less and less and less. Mainly because obviously I'm not buying it anymore, but it's not really performing. But the APY part of it isn't giving me what I kind of want out of it. Just because it's not me and my situation. Everyone's situation is different, and what everyone likes is different. Some are more conservative, some are going to be more aggressive. I'm obviously more on the aggressive side, as everyone knows. But they know I actually don't mind the conservative side. Everyone's different. But I believe that Hex, the amount of emergency end staking done on year 7, and right now at year 5, because a lot of those people signed up in the beginning at 10-year stakes, so they have the ability to take out their APY at a break even, and for every month that passes, as they get that much more added to that break even amount, I am willing to bet as Hex goes up that there's going to be so much emergency end staking being done on Hex. It's not even funny, because the average person does not want to go through what they just went through in the last 4 years again. So that's a psychological thing. I have a feeling that you're surprised by the emergency end staking with the locking on pTGC. I have a feeling if we were to do a 50, 100X from here, like we all perceive we do, you're going to see an even crazier round of that. So the lockers are going to massively benefit from that, in my opinion, when that does happen. So even though I'm not a locker, I'm just giving you a big pro that I guarantee you, if you see it at 25, 50, 100X from here, I guarantee you what you saw over the last few months or, the last few quarters with the emergency unlocking with pTGC, you're going to see it way more here in the next, 6 to 8 months.
Yep.
Yeah, our community is pretty transparent about that too. Like, the people who are in the locking, they're like, hey, we're banking on that. Like, that's the reason we locked, is we think this is going to do 100X, and we think people are going to come in locking saying, oh, I'm going to be here forever. But then when they see their portfolio go up 100X, they're like, okay, I'm just going to take my 70%, give 30% to the ecosystem. That's what happens when you early unlock with pTGC, is it's just a 30% fee. It doesn't matter how much you fulfilled or how early you're closing. And then that's where the people who are actually going to stay, they're going to say, okay, well, I'm going to get my portion of their 30%, and I'm going to live off of their 30%, so I never even have to touch my lock, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely game theory, and that's definitely going to happen because people feel smarter the second time around. It's all, at the end of the day, this is all emotions. So if you feel smarter the second time around, and you say, I'm not going through this again, which is another emotion. It's an emotion of not necessarily greed, but just you're having flashbacks of your previous emotions, which was negative because it didn't work out the right way. So that emotion of I'm not going to do this again, and I'm out of here, I'm going to take my profits and do that. That's different from the emotion of the person that's calm and saying, yeah, I'm just going to chill, take all your coins, and then live off that by boss. You know, everyone has their different types of game plans. At the end of the day, if you are going to lock, you better make sure it's what you want, because 30% is a hefty, it's a hefty fee. It's better than our races fee, because some of them just take almost all your money, but still 30% is big, especially when you're talking X's.
Yeah, it's like big, but then it's also small comparatively to like some of the other things with similar design, to where I feel like users are still willing to hit it, right?
Yeah, yep. Happy medium.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I even thought, you know, as like we're a year and a half in, I felt like in the first few months, people were, you know, obviously locking and prices were going up. So then they're like, oh crap, I'm up all these X's, like I'm going to get these funds. So we saw like a lot of locks happening in the earlier days, unlocking and us raking that in. But I thought that people, because then like other theories have came out, like, hey, you can create ladders, or hey, you can create multiple locks so you don't have to early unlock your whole portfolio. So like there's all these game theories coming out. And I really was like, okay, well, the APY here is probably going to die down because people are learning the system better and better. And it's like happening like opposite, right? Like Banana said, like this month we've seen a 3x to what we've seen in previous months. So I guess my hypothesis in that direction is surprisingly, in a good way, incorrect.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's probably the best scenario if you're going to do it. Figure out what your, you know, this is not financial advice, but figure out what your moon bag is. And if your moon bag is, hey, I'm going to have a 8-year plan or a 5-year plan or a 6-year plan, then, you know, that amount you lock. And then you keep it going. And then that's how you do it, like that other guy did. He might have sold a little too early, but he actually had the perfect plan. I just think his moon bag was a little big. Your friends or your family friends was a little big. But, you know, if that's your moon bag, and you're like, hey, I'm going to keep this for a moon bag for this crazy price appreciation that everything one thinks is possible, then that's probably a good idea to, you know, do it that way instead of, I'm going to take 80% of my bag and this is going to be the most bullish thing ever. And then it doesn't work out in your favor in the time frame of your favor. And then you end up making an emotional decision.
Yeah, I don't even think he's made an emotional decision. I think he just went back to work. You know what I mean? Because he wasn't working for a little bit because he had all this hex and he was living off of it. But when that stream went dry and it was just his lock left, he just, you know, I think made the decision like, well, I guess I'm going back to work for more years.
Yeah. You see that? Let that be a lesson, because you see that with a lot of hex people. You thought that, you know, the biggest people on the earth, and they were asking the community for donations to get out of places and donations for lawyers, and then all of a sudden those people that you thought were good are now launching coins and running them, and it's like it's all the same thing. It's bad decisions on your planning at the end of the day, and it shows. So learn from it, and you know, make it if it hasn't happened to you, learn from it, take notes down, and realize what their mistake is, and you capitalize off of their mistake so you don't make it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's kind of the benefit of like the next cycle, right? Like last cycle, thing like Hex, like that was a brand new idea, so there was no data to look back previously to really study and create your own plan accordingly. But now, since we have years of data with real DeFi protocols out there, you can actually take that data and make plans off of, you can predict the future by studying the past. And now we actually have past similarities to study. Yeah, when we're in that conversation, when you're talking, I thought of something that was really important to bring up. I'm spacing on it now. I'm going to keep trying to rattle my brain to see if I come up with it again.
Does anybody else want to come up and talk? Does anybody have any comments or questions?
I do.
Go for it.
So regarding the website, by the way, congratulations on the beautiful new logos. I hope they're gonna show up on the new website. So regarding the website, the original one has UFO as one of the tabs on the page. Will UFO have its own website, or will it be toggled? Because it kind of looks like a sub token as of right now, and I think it's a token that stands on its own, and it should have probably its own like full page, and so that's one thing. I also agree with Snowflake Society about the background. Could be black, but it could be like a space kind of theme, like some stars, Star Wars theme. And like as far as sections for like staking and locking, maybe they could be like a little bit separated. Some people like actually, doing transactions that are wasted or whatever, and having a fat finger thing going, touching or clicking on the wrong button. And the last thing, will there be a mobile app? Because I have one of my wallets on the mobile. It's kind of crappy, It's like a specific mobile app for pTGC and UFO. That's all I have.
Yeah, the designer that's helping with this new site is actually one of the Grays. He's someone that's in this community that reached out to me, who actually does this as his profession. Like he's a website designer, so he's been really helping with it, and he does plan on giving a really nice mobile app due to a lot of people doing crypto mobile, even though I think that's a very bad decision personally, but people do whatever they want to do, and he is going to try to make a better mobile app. The idea as far as the layout of this new site is, on the old site, UFO was a specific like tab, kind of like how DAO had a tab and staking had a tab, sorry. The idea with this site is, imagine it more like when you enter onto a website and they have a toggle where you can go from light and dark mode, right? And all the data when you go from light and dark mode is actually the same. It's just changing the color theme. So with this new site, we're going to have it to where it has UFO and pTGC mode, to where you just toggle back and forth. And actually a lot of the categories is all the same, right? Like it's going to be showing market cap, it's going to be showing volume, it's going to show charts and stats. But when you toggle back and forth, it's going to keep all the sections the same, but it's going to change the color theme and the information within the boxes. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. That's beautiful. I just wanted to have UFO as like a separate, more of a standalone token. That's great. And the logos are just spectacular.
thank you. I appreciate it. I was pretty much also a community member that made that suggestion and even gave the mock-up of what he kind of suggested, and we worked off of that. So, yeah, the community is like really coming together as far as creating the product of pTGC and UFO and making solid suggestions on the growth of the ecosystem. That these people have more expertise in these areas than I do, and I really appreciate the help that people are bringing up as a community. Right, like there's tons of community stuff getting put together. Logos being it, the website being another thing. Another great example is because you mentioned Snowflake. He has his volume tracker and his gold ring for the pTGC PFPs. Kong has his tracker of all the stats. Like, there's just a lot of amazing things this community is doing right now.
Yeah, and the logos too has that golden gradient incorporated in this new one, so it keeps up with the original intent, I think. But anyway, thank you. I'm looking forward to the new website.
Yeah. Like I said previously, when we get more finished with it, I'll probably put out some snippets or something like that to our community and ask for mock-ups or additions or anything that anyone thinks we need, because I am trying to make this one the end-all be-all of the website goes, really capture a lot of the ideas that our community has had throughout the last year and a half that just hasn't been implemented as of right now. We're not in a complete rush, especially due to us. We have a 100% operating flawlessly website up right now, so I'm not in a time crunch to get it out at a certain amount of time. The idea behind it is to just let out the best product as possible. So
I find it interesting that Richard Hart's comments are still on. I think they've been on for almost a week now. And I think that's very bullish from my perspective. I think it's showing that he's more open to communicating. And if he's more open to communicating, it makes me wonder and hope that he starts streaming again.
yeah, I'm not holding my breath. Again, I love with pTGC and UFO, we are built on top of PulseChain, and if RH starts streaming again, we win so heavily. If RH tickers start going up due to capital injections from SAC funds, whatever it is, right? I don't have the answers of the future. I do believe RH is the only one that knows what the future holds for PulseChain and what the moves are on this game of crypto. But what I love for pTGC and UFO is we have so many X's that we can do in the meantime. And when his time does come, it's a multiplier. Like, literally, a lot of people don't realize it's a legitimate multiplier. If we can do a 10x in the next few months against PulseChain and RH comes in and does a 10x, a measly 10x from this level, that would literally get us to prices that we were at this time last year. That's 100x from these prices. 10 times 10. It's not addition, it's multiplication. And that's what I think, that's what I'm focused on, right? Is you shouldn't expect profits from the work of others, 100%. But you can expect profits from the work of yourself, right? Like Banana, you're out here kind of working for your bag right now. I'm out here, trying to spread the love and support of pTGC, educate people on what it is. There's tons of people who actually understand this idea, and you can support RH, right? I do believe pTGC and UFO are some of the biggest supporters of RH tickers. We're some of the biggest buyers of his tickers. We're some of the biggest LP providers of his tickers. We're delivering products on his blockchain that don't exist on other blockchains. We have a literally farm built on top of his DEX, not on another DEX. Like, we're supporting him, supporting the growth of PulseChain, while also putting the ball in our own court. A lot of people love to watch the game, but then they get mad when their top player doesn't shoot the baskets and win the game for them. They just want to sit on the bench. At some point, you need to get your ass in the game and say, hey, if he's not going to make the shots this game, I'm going to start making the shots for myself and my team so that you can still come out with the win. And then when the MVP comes to the game and starts scoring a bunch of baskets, because we know he has the skill set and levers to do so, it just makes it that much more of a blowout, right?
Yeah, I love what you said. Actually, you and I share a very similar opinion. I think. I don't know. I hope that RH will come back and stream because I like to hear him speak. I also love to watch him debate. But we might have a new Richard Hart that doesn't stream, and I've been thinking that for quite some time. Doesn't mean that I don't hope that he streams. I do, but who knows? Maybe he won't, and I'm prepared for that.
Yeah, I definitely hope so too. But we have to prepare for the worst and hope for the best is, I think, our best solution. The worst is he never comes back and streams again. We never see his face on a live stream or a video ever again. Obviously, we get those little videos that don't show his face and it's just voice. That might be the best we ever get forever. So we can prevent that.
How about we do some betting right now? If he does come back, does he look more fat, as fat as he was, or is he ripped?
Come on now.
Richard is definitely coming back and live streaming. Definitely.
It's best for business. You ain't gonna. We're in an attention-getting economy, bro.
That's what Richard Hart does. That's what he loves. That's why he sets it all up as a professional studio. He loves to engage the world like that.
And he knows what it'll do to his chart too.
He can't do it right now, man.
Uh-huh.
He really had to sign agreements with these attorneys. It's standard activity. He cannot do it right now until everything's done. Just can't do it.
April 21st is the Monday after this coming Monday. Just so everyone knows. That's the next date on the calendar for the legal issue with the SEC.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Your predictions now. Time is everything.
You got to wonder what in the world he would say coming back. He'd be like, you guys have been like, what?
I'm gonna say, shut up and accept my stream challenge.
It's time to debate the Moon King.
Moon King. Yeah. I done took your place. Now come take it back if you dare choose to.
And he better say a big thank you. Let me tell you.
You ain't know. I don't think there's a thank you coming out of that man.
No.
But I would bet almost, man. I do not see a world where Richard wins the case and does everything and doesn't come back on that throne to light those green candles.
I do hope so. That would be so bullish, man. I think I said on stream last week in Spaces, if he streams, I will listen to it back to back 3 times. You know how he like puts those little nuggets. He can talk so swiftly, and he'll just say something in about a second and a half that if you're not really paying attention, you'll miss it. That's why.
Bro, even Richard's haters loved Richard's streams, man.
Yep. We'll see.
Oh,
Oh. Well, what else is shaking, guys? Bitcoin is over 85,000 right now.
we need to see 86. I want to see a higher high. No, this is weekend bullshit. I want to see a higher high. And I want to see a little higher low. And then it is confirmed. we're going for another 6 to 8 months.
Nice.
But April is a lot. This month is like, the last few weeks were crucial, and Bitcoin succeeded through that. Now the days chart, the charts, the candles on the day chart now goes into the weekly chart. So now we look at the weekly chart, and now I say I want to see a higher high on the weekly. And then when it comes down lower back to the daily to create a higher low, then it leads into the monthly.
Mm.
Now, the monthly is very overbought. But the crazy thing about the monthly charts being overbought is that you can actually be overbought for a very long time. Just know when you get out of overbought territory, it ain't gonna be pretty.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you get those big, thick, girthy red candles down to the downside. Vice versa, when you're oversold, those months where it just feels like, is this thing ever going to go up? That is the same concept to the other side. It's oversold, and it can be oversold for a long time. And for months, people could be like, it's oversold. It's oversold. It's got to go up. And then it doesn't go up for like another 6 or 7 months because you felt it was oversold 7 months ago. But then once you're out of that oversold territory, you get those big, girthy green candles.
Mm-hmm.
So right now we're in a scenario where we're like, is it? Is it not it? Is it? Is it not it? Because we're in that overbought territory where it just feels like it's just kind of hanging on a thread right now, but it can just slingshot you for another, 3 to 6 months, 8 months. But when that time's done, I don't get too much into this, but they call it bearish divergence. So basically, the RSI is creating lower lows versus the price creating higher highs. It's running out of steam, running out of buyers. We're in that territory right now with the monthly, but you can actually stay in that territory for quite some time. So that's why I say, hey, we can go for a good amount of time longer, and a lot of gains could be made in that time. But for me, the most bullish thing for PulseChain is something I've been preaching since 2022. Back when Bitcoin was at 50,000, I told everybody to watch the 300 and the 400 week moving average, and that would be the bottom of Bitcoin. A year later, that was the bottom of Bitcoin. But the most bullish thing that has happened, Ethereum hasn't been performing. And as of last week, if you were a subscriber, you have known on the day that it happened, Ethereum actually tapped its 400 week moving average. Now, when you tap those long-term moving averages, which is weekly, the average price of Ethereum for 400 weeks, it just tapped last week. So when that happens, best believe that is a buying point for all traditional markets, because I only got those moving averages from traditional markets. They like to hit those numbers. When Tesla drops from $1,000 down to its low, it likes that 400, 300 week moving average. So I brought all these traditional averages, and everyone gives all these different pinpoints. Look at this moving average. Look at this, and look at this. And you see all these people with all these little lines going all over the place, and you can't follow what's going on. If you just stick with that 300, 400 week moving average and just use that as a long term, every 4 years, you're probably going to tap it or come close to it, and you buy at that point, it's a very bullish moving average to buy off of. And Ethereum just hit it last week. And you're seeing the bounce. If you look at the weekly chart on the Ethereum, you're seeing the massive bounce from that exact wick. I called it the day before. I said, look at this moving average. It hit, boom, it hits. And then you're saying, hey, this is bullish. I expect price to go up. Not right away. It's not going to go up and just make everyone rich in 2 weeks. It takes a little bit for it to happen, but once it goes, hindsight's always 20/20. You look at it and you're like, damn, I should have bought that. So that's history that goes all the way back into the 50s, 1950s, 60s. Like, you look at that type of data. too many people are too much like in the now. Like I look at data from decades ago, almost. Well, it's not almost a century, but literally decades ago, 50 years of data, and Ethereum just hit that point. So that's bullish for PulseChain.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that data set, I think it's new for ETH. It's because Bitcoin came out sooner, so there's not a bunch of 400-week moving averages you can look at for ETH.
Correct. It came out in March of 2022, I believe. So that was its first 400-week. Like that means that shows in March 2022, Ethereum has been out for 400 weeks. So that's what that says. And then that that line starts, and every single week it ticks. So when you look at the 300-week moving average for Ethereum, it's a lot longer than the 400-week moving average. So now that you see that created and it just hit it for the first time, you're going to see a bounce 100%. And when I showed the subscribers, I said, I expect Ethereum to mega bounce. You saw me starting to call a little bit more coins, giving you batches of coins to look into. I was looking for narratives because I literally said the exact same thing that I said with Bitcoin when it hit its 400-week moving average. As soon as it gets a bounce off of that and bounces it, you're going to hear me being bullish on meme coins, altcoins. It's time to go. And that's why you kind of, subscribers see me like starting to call more coins and because you're getting in at the low when everyone's afraid and everyone's scared, but the data point tells you buy. Like the data is telling you to buy from data from 1950, 60 is telling you to buy. So if you can't take those data points and act on it, you're just not going to make it. It's just not. This industry's not for you. You'll be buying more tops than lows.
Yeah, if you're not buying the 400-week moving average, you just don't know what you're doing, or you don't believe in that shit anymore.
Don't get me wrong, it's not an easy buy because you're truly going against this. You're truly going against the grain. It does take some balls to do it, but once you do it a few times, it's not that hard.
It's an easier buy if you don't look at the price that you're entering or that you're buying at, but you're looking at the quantity of token that you can get.
Correct.
And that's one thing I always advocate.
It ain't even that. The people are like, why is the price going down? And I'm like, the why doesn't matter. I'm giving you data points from when your parents weren't even born. So I'm literally giving you data points when your parents weren't even born, or when your parents were 5, 10 years old. I'm giving you data points that literally says anytime any type of price action hits this number, buy it. And you can put any asset in front of it, and you can literally be like, damn, you are right. So when that comes into crypto, which is a new asset, you can buy the low. Buy it. Like, it hit, buy it. Like, it worked for Tesla. It worked for Microsoft. It worked for Pets.com when it was out. It worked for Apple. It worked for, name the company. I don't care what you name. Go ahead and put the 400 and 300-week moving average on that chart on TradingView right now, and you're going to look like you're going to be like, damn, like, how do you figure this out? So literally, you're just getting the cheat code to what the average person doesn't even know, doesn't even have the information. It's whether you believe in data or not, because data at the end of the day is the driving force of a decision. You're either going to make your decision off the data that the news gives you, which is likely false. They want to steer you in a different direction. Or you give the data that has nothing to do with the news. Show me the chart, I'll tell you the news. Because I don't care if it was COVID, it bounced off the 300-week moving average. I don't care if it was the 2008 housing crash, it bounced off the 400-week moving average. I don't care if it was World War Dude, like, it doesn't matter. Like, any type of data point that you have that you can throw a chart on it, 300, 400 week moving average. So what scenario is bigger than the freaking world shutting down and no one able to work or do anything from 2020, and that data point works? Are you afraid to act on that data point now that Trump decided to do some tariffs?
Hell no.
Like, he's done this before, so you can look at the data point and show where it dropped off, because he did it in 2018, and guess where the price rebounded off of? The 300-week moving average. So, like, why would you take that data point and act upon it?
The 400-week was coming in at like 1480, 81 or something, right?
And at 15.5, just right under.
Yeah, and it literally, basically, it always wicks down below, but it literally just wicked basically down to like 1,400. And it's already up 20% basically in 4 days from that.
Yep. That's how it works. So it doesn't bounce up and go give you a 2, 3, 4, 5x right away. You gotta remember, these are assets that have been out for years. 400 weeks. There's 52 weeks in a year. Divide 400 by 52. You're going to get 100, 4 times 4. That's what?
8 years.
8 years? 7 years? So you're going to get. It's too late to get massive, crazy 100x gains on these assets. These assets you're going to get the 5 to 10x's.
Yeah.
However, how I like to play the game is those assets under that assets, like your ERC20s and your PRC20s or your PulseChains, those are multipliers on that asset.
Uh-huh.
So instead of going that, you can make a decision on the multiplier of that asset very easily. That's how you'll see me be able to buy low, take more educational guesses that's backed by data, and not just, oh, I like this coin, let me get in now. But then you realize the coin dropped another 85, 95% for the market. Well, yeah, you did an emotional decision. You didn't do off of any data points, and therefore you lose money. That's not saying the asset is bad. It's just you took the wrong time period to get into that asset. So how smart would we all have been? Did I think we were going to go to a 300-week moving average in the middle of a bull market? No, absolutely not. But do I have stable coins to apply if it happens? Yes, and I did. So that's why I teach the law of meme coins. Take your profits, put them in either your layer one or your favorite asset or a stable coin, so that when another dip happens, you have the ability to get into it and buy it. And I had a nice little chunk of change. Once I saw Ethereum just not acting to the market, I was like, it's going for the 400-week moving average for sure. Like, absolutely. And that was probably about, you saw me backing up and not being as aggressive probably about a month and a half ago, probably 2 months ago, where I was telling people like, hey, like put in stable coins, like chill out a little bit. Because this thing's not reacting, so it's going down. And the only place I saw it going down to would be the 300 to 400-week moving average. Once it lost the 300-week moving average, instantly I said the 400-week moving average is a big bounce. And that's what we just saw. So.
Sweet.
Well, that's good because Pulse is a leverage on ETH, and pTGC and UFO are a mega leverage on Pulse. So.
And that's also why you heard me say pivot. I'm going in PCCC, pivot, because it's about that time. Like, this is it. So anything you have, I'm just throwing it all into it. And a lot of people are like, man, you're being overly aggressive. I'm being overly aggressive off of data points from, like, for decades. So to me, it's not being overly aggressive, because if it, for whatever reason, were to lose the 400-week moving average and do something completely different than the world has been acting on and forever, then I have an easy point to get out of it also. As soon as it closes 2 candles below the 400-week moving average, it's doing something different. So I don't have to lose a ton of money knowing that. I can lose maybe 2, 3, 4% of my money just to make another percentage more of my money. So it only makes sense, peeps. Like you're either this is one case when it comes to charting. Most new people say it's just a bunch of lines. It doesn't work. It takes you about a cycle to believe it because that's just how it works. I believed it from the get-go when I heard it and started because, I've dealt with charts and data points and analytics and stuff like that in my previous life of crypto. So I believed it once I saw it. But for the average person, you're just making lines, making guesses and doing that. And a lot of people aren't doing that because they truly haven't mastered the skill. But once you do, it takes about a cycle for most people to realize, okay, there's something I should at least know the basics of trading so I can make an educated guess. But most people that hate on TA are either uneducated about it and or don't have the skill to want to learn it. So it works. Combine fundamental analytics with technical analytics, and you become a beast in crypto.
And you do got to know that Richard.
Think we lost you, Mando. Wonder if I got to drop out and come back in. I think so. No? Did we lose you for a second? For a minute, actually, Mando?
Yeah, I think he dropped out for some reason. He might have got a call or something like that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes.
We hear you now.
Yeah, I just said it was funny that Richard's Twitter account opened up comments almost on the day that ETH hit the 400-week moving average.
Somebody's paying attention to the Moon King. Is he subscribed to the Moon King? What's up, Rich? How you doing over there?
What's going on, Richie? We know you're listening.
My little classmate.
Well, he definitely wasn't subscribed when he aped in at the top. And he's like,
hell no. That's probably when he did subscribe.
Well, it was April 7th when it hit that 400-day moving average, when Ethereum did. And that was also the day that Richard Hart opened up his comments.
I think so. I think it's the exact day.
The Moon King doesn't just make this stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Pulse has been on an uptrend.
Up since then.
Yep.
Mm. Beautiful.
Winning.
Do you think he's turning on his comments so his engagement picks up and his account starts trending to more people? Or what's your thoughts on that?
It's a sign, in my opinion, that it's time to go. Just like I said, hey, Ethereum's hit it. I expect a massive bounce and I expect a massive potential reversal. It's now or never. It's time to go. I think it's going to be, it's like I said, it's not going to happen all right away, all in one week. And, like Ethereum's at $4,000. No, it's going to fake you out a little bit. It's going to play with you a little bit, just like he's going to play with you a little bit. Add some, and then when it's time to go, you're going to know. Like when Ethereum hits, $2,700, which is almost like a double from that bottom, people are still going to get louder. They're going to talk less about Solana. They're going to talk less about Sui, like Sui's now the coin that the VCs are trying to push, And then what happens is they start talking about Ethereum. But what's the leverage play on Ethereum? PulseChain. Now all of a sudden people start talking about PulseChain. Crypto Banter starts inviting Richard Hart onto his stream to understand everything that's went on and allows him to talk about PulseChain on his channel, which is the biggest channel. Now all of a sudden people start looking up, what is this PulseChain? Now everyone's looking up who are the influencers on PulseChain and what they're talking about. Now those coins start going up even faster because now that's how this whole process works. It's just a trickle-down effect at the end of the day. And if this is a reversal, which I do feel it is a reversal, it's just the timing of the reversal. That's how I see how it plays out.
I mean, guys, the pTGC is up 68% from that last bottom there, where ETH hit that. So we're at almost 70% up from that floor. It's definitely looking like the reversal.
I know whales that wanted that 7-to-1 ratio.
They didn't get it.
The worst thing they could have told me is to tell me that.
Front ran their asses off.
That is the absolute worst thing you could have done. So if you're listening, I'm sorry, but you can buy back higher. It's part of the game. Or buy it higher.
8-to-1s was good, man. 8-to-1 in that range, that was good, B.
And that was public. I was very public about that, too. Well, no, I wasn't as public. I was more subscriber. But
yeah, you had to.
That was probably more subscriber, for sure. Yeah, that was more subscriber. But the subscribers could 100% back it up and say, yeah, he was telling us fucking 8-to-1 was the number. Because I went on a subscriber call and said, I'll let you know right now I'm going in at 8-to-1. And, I'm not allowing them to get to 7-to-1. So you know my number, so front run me. And PulseChain, with the push down on PulseChain alone, it had no choice. It wasn't that people were selling. It was just that PulseChain and PDI and all that. I didn't know why. Like, I don't know the why it's going. It's not like I predetermined that this exploiter was going to come out and freaking just sell PDI all the way down and everyone was going to be affected somehow, some way. I don't know the why. I don't care about the why. The chart tells me this is where it could go, and this is where I will freaking deploy. And you can front run me if you choose to front run me. Like, that's how transparent I am with people. So it's like, this is what happened. And guess what? The why just happened to be the reason why I got that number and was able to deploy more capital at that number. And a lot of other people did deploy at that number. And if you're being a little too greedy and trying to get that 5 to 7 area, and that's why we're sitting at what? Where are we sitting at now? What, 13? 14?
No, 11.
11?
5 or something.
So we came down from 13 to base off of. So we're basing off of the 10 to 11 area. That's our base. That's without me looking at the chart, but I would say that's probably our psychological 10 levels of base. And people are starting to realize they're not going to get those 8s anymore.
Yeah.
We did go up for a minute there to 13.35.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Just some people taking some profits and paying the system.
Yeah. But yeah, that's how you play the game. Once you learn the game, you become numb to dips and you say, where's the opportunity? I don't care what the coin is. Like, it just doesn't matter what. I mean, we're talking about pTGC right now, but as far as what it is, like, if you just learn how to play the game, you're gonna win. So, ooh, don't go slow now. There's a cop behind him. Got him. So I'm speeding in my neighborhood.
Yeah, B-Roots, I think finding that bottom of PulseChain is really important. And like you're saying, if when ETH tapped that 400-week moving average, if that day, which is looking like it, not guaranteed, but if that day was the low of PulseChain, every time you found the low of PulseChain, and if you were taking advantage of whatever dip was on pTGC, in the last 2 instances of pTGC, PulseChain has gone up like a 5x. PTGC went up 45x. The second time, Pulse did like a 3x or a 2x, and PTGC did another 45x, right? So if you're ultimately looking for X's in a sustainable system that has liquidity to actually back X's, finding the low of PulseChain, which could be pretty close to right now, I don't know the exact number, but seems like we're possibly in that range. These might be the cheapest prices you ever get on PTGC. And if you look at the data from the last year and a half, and I hope this doesn't happen again, I hope we actually get a good run. I hope it's not like a 3x run on PulseChain. I hope we actually go on to make a new all-time high. But PulseChain every single time has hit a lower low, right? The first dip, it went lower than the second dip went lower than the first. The third, the one we're in right now, went lower than the second and the first. But PTGC on its dips keep going higher and higher and higher. So anyone taking advantage of the dip previously, their areas never got tapped again. So where I'm getting at is this might be that dip that might never come back again in the rest of the existence of PTGC.
100%. Because if you think that PulseChain does a bull run, or any asset, like any asset goes to the low and it's going to be relative, like look at Cardano. Did Cardano ever go back to 3 cents? Nope. It started there and then went up to like a dollar or something, $2 something in 2018, and then went back there. But after it went back there, that was the biggest. After it got back there and the market got a little bit more mature, people were like, okay, this isn't over. This is something. It never went back to that 3 cents. So because we're in a more mature crypto market, the chances of, even if it doesn't go back to its all-time high in its second or third cycle, the chances of it going back to the low is very small. So let's take a prime example, probably be, and I don't have a chart. I'm literally walking in the neighborhood right now. So I'm just going off of pure memory. But probably the best example of that would be like, look at Monero chart. I believe it went up from its bull market into the hundreds of dollars, then came down to like 23, anywhere from 18 to $23. And then this previous bull market that we had in 2020, it actually didn't go higher than its all-time high, but in its prior bear market, it didn't go lower than its all-time low. So that tells you that, yes, what you just said could be very possible, especially if we're a leverage play on ETH, and that market is adopting that as a scenario. It's not adopting it as an ETH killer. It's not adopting it as it's going to take over ETH. It's adopting it as it's a leverage play on ETH. So if that's what the community, do I believe is it a true leverage play? No, not really. Like it's not like if ETH does that, it's guaranteed that PulseChain is going to do this. But it's the narrative behind PulseChain that can be a thing, because if it does do massive gains on it, then the community, the society, the crypto community society as a whole now believes that PulseChain is a leverage play on Ethereum.
Well, you know what it really is this leverage play, this leverage word gets used very freely, but really all it is PulseChain is operating off of an X multiplier to ETH, just like we're operating on an X multiplier to Pulse. So for us, wherever Pulse goes, we're going to go automatically because we're bonded with Pulse and we're bonded with everything that's bonded with Pulse also. Correct, and everything in liquidity pools is just ratio based. So PulseChain is working off of this same thing. If ETH goes up 20%, that's pretty much what it's bonded with besides some stable coins. But the thing is for PulseChain to do like I think a 6x, it only needs like $10 million injected right now because liquidity is so low. And that's its X multiplier. So when ETH goes up, it's going to get that X, right? Is that a 3x? I don't know what it is, right? A 4x if ETH has a decent run, let's say it's a 4x. Well, Pulse is all automatically pretty much going to get that 4x.
Yeah.
Just through the ratios and liquidity and bonding. Well, now let's say $10 million gets injected into Pulse, and that's an additional, let's say, 5x. Well, then now PulseChain just did a 20x from this level, but it only took $10-20 million of value injection within crypto. That's absolutely nothing. And then if you look at it from a pTGC standpoint, okay, well, now we just received a free 20x multiplier for free from this level. And then you've taken into consideration every X that we do over that. Let's say it's a 5X, 10X, let's say 10X. Well, now we're just sitting at a 200X from this level. And that's what I kind of mean. It's like a lot of people like say it's a leverage play, it's a leverage play. But no one even can explain that to anyone. What it really is ratios in liquidity pools and X multipliers due to the fact of being bonded with something, but able to do X's over it because you are one step lower down the totem pole than the thing you're connected to, right?
People, Zen, currently with the way LPs are sitting on PulseChain, with 10 million injected, that is across the core tickers, the mean is a 10x. It's a 5.
That's what I'm saying is it takes ultimately no value. In crypto, $10 million is nothing. It ultimately takes no value to send PulseChain up 10x right now. And that doesn't even include ETH doing anything, right? If ETH did a 4x, well, now you're sitting on a 40x, right? And you have to realize, well, has pTGC ever even seen PulseChain do a 40x? Well, I'll tell you what that would do to our liquidity. We have roughly 10 million in liquidity right now. If PulseChain did a 40x, we'd be sitting on $400 million of liquidity. If we get a 40x and we're sitting on $400 million in liquidity, we'll be seeing volume levels that are generating hundreds of millions of dollars of buy and burns, most likely, if you look at previous data. And now if you think about that, will pTGC be sitting in the top 50 of tokens that exist on chain? Yes. Why? Because we have structured our foundation to do so when the thing we're built on has any sort of a success. It's just a matter of time, right?
It's a 0.0028 at a 10x. And that's with zero multiplier on pTGC. That's just a 10x of PulseChain.
Yeah, that's if we did nothing. That's literally if we just sat here with that ratio.
0.0028.
By the way, you say top on PulseChain, it would actually not be top on PulseChain. It's going to be like top in the whole crypto market.
Oh, yeah, I don't care about
you forget we're ranked on CoinGecko, right?
Hey, B-Roots, you have to realize I don't care about top on PulseChain. We're going to top in crypto.
Yeah, it's like a 20x is, I think, actually, a 10x actually would be, let me see, pTGC, market cap, 84 million.
OA? Are you excluding OA or are you?
What is listed on CoinGecko?
Okay.
85 million times 10 is 850 million. When you look at $850 million market cap, you are ranked number 92. So that's a 10x.
Yeah.
like even if Pulse, you guys got to realize if PulseChain's not ranked correctly on CoinGecko, but pTGC is, and let's just say it does like a 50x from where we're at now, and let's just say like that's the number we do from here. You're looking at a $4.2 billion market cap. Now, obviously, if the market's going up, their market caps are going to go up too. So take this with a grain of salt. But a 50x would have you in a 32 position. So just imagine PulseChain, like pTGC being the only PulseChain. Like there's a few that's going to be ranked correctly. PGC is one of them. So if no one decides to go in or have the connections to that, or CoinGecko is just like, no, thank you. You're going to see pTGC is almost the top dog because Hex is not even ranked correctly.
Yeah, it creates a situation where PTGC turns into the Trojan horse for PulseChain into those mainstream assets because PTGC is PulseChain. Look at its liquidity web. It's all of RH tickers. So even if someone doesn't even want to participate in RH tickers or care to, but they want to participate in one of the top tokens on chain, it actually operates as a way in when they buy PTGC, they're buying every single RH ticker that exists because it's an index of everything that's a blue chip on the chain, which turns it into the Trojan horse of PulseChain, especially if RH keeps getting gate capped.
Yeah, and it's properly listed in the meme category, number 34 currently, which kind of makes it a little Trojan horse on the meme side.
Imagine. So what's the number one on the meme side?
The number one right now is Dogecoin, and then SHIB, and then Pepe.
So take Dogecoin out of it, and then SHIB is a $7 billion market cap, and then Pepe. Yeah, like these are the three most talked about memes. So when something comes up, it will be talked about. The eyes will see it, 1,000%.
Yeah, so you're gonna be moving up rapidly in this category, which is obviously the number one category. But then at the same time, you're going to be moving naturally in the standardized ranks too.
So for all those that didn't like it, now you're seeing how it all comes together. Just gotta think 10 steps ahead of everybody.
Hey, Moon, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, what's going on, man? I just stopped by. I saw this X Space. I'm coming from the Caspa ecosystem. I'm one of the devs from the Nacho the Cat creator team. We have the biggest meme on Caspa, and I was interested to see what you guys are building, what you guys have going on. I'm trying to explore different ecosystems and stuff like that because our layer one that we have here is having EVM compatible smart contracts soon. And I want to see what people are building on EVM and, different blockchains and different technologies. And I wanted to see what, PTGC is, if you guys can explain it quickly. I just joined not too long ago. But if you could explain it really simply and indirectly for me. By the way, I love the Energy Moon. I love what you guys are doing.
Thank you. Well, we actually have the developer or founder right here. You're talking to the horse right here.
Yeah, what's going on, Daniel? So pretty much in a nutshell, what PTGC, there's two tokens to the ecosystem. It's PTGC and UFO. PTGC is the main token. They both operate off of the same mechanic. Ultimately, we created a utility that it's as you hold one, you hold all. So when you hold PTGC, you're holding all the blue chips of the PulseChain blockchain. And as the markets do what they do, the only guarantee that the markets have for you is they go up and down. And what we do is we've pretty much created a liquidity web between all of the assets that matter on chain for the most part. And as the markets move up and down, they create price differences in the token that we're connected to, or with our token to the token we're connected to. And then market makers need to fix the price between all the assets. And then we generate revenue off of the market makers fixing the price. So the market just going up and down, we generate revenue off of that. And we bring that revenue back to the underlying value of our ecosystem with buy and burns and consistent LP ads, APY to holders, etc. So ultimately, it's a utility that doesn't even need human interaction. A lot of protocols try to strap on a utility to that token. But the truth is if your utility needs a user, and you don't have the user to use the utility, or is there no reason for the utility to exist, there is no reason for your token to exist, and it ultimately dies eventually. Or that's why I think this cycle is a big meme coin cycle, is because they realized this last cycle that all these utilities they were strapping on the tokens didn't matter, and you might as well just put a JPEG there and just bring the full value to the token itself instead of pushing them towards a worthless utility, to where we kind of just did both, right? We have the awesome mascot, like we were kind of talking about. If we can get this mascot, the alien head, the UFO, the alien theme, into the top 50, everyone's going to be asking questions. It's probably one of the best mascots in all of crypto. Well, on top of that, we have a utility that is pretty much the only guarantee in the markets. Markets go up and down. We generate revenue off of it, and we bring that revenue back to our ecosystem, constantly increasing the price of the token infinitely. Besides huge human demand and human sell-offs, like that's going to create highs and lows on the charts. But from a foundation standpoint, we're constantly raising the floor of the asset, and that's the journey we're on. It's pretty much an idea that's never been done in crypto before. We're pioneers of this idea and ready to see what it actually does long term.
Dude, great. That is absolutely fucking fantastic, man. That's something I've never heard of, and that's very new to me. And I love to see the building and the utility aspect of where you're trying to drive use, growth, and purpose. We're actually working on right now creating the first ever pump fund or a token launcher on Caspa, because this is a proof of work that we're working on. Okay. And we have the first ever DEX coming to Caspa, and we have transaction fees that are 1/100th of a penny with a proof of work that does 10 blocks per second, right? So we're trying to also push, different levels of adoption. We have a mining pool with different rebates and competitive pricing. You can mine and get paid out in different tokens.
Hey, Daniel,
yes.
I don't mean to cut you off. I'll be honest, I don't have tons of time, and really all this space is for is to educate people on pTGC and UFO. If you have any specific pTGC or UFO questions, I'm more than happy. That's what this space is for, but it's not really one of those open forum things about tons of other projects.
Oh, got it. I understand, man. One question about you guys and what you're doing. Is it possible? Are you guys opening to having a collab space and talking about what you're building and educating our community on what you're doing?
So me personally, I don't technically collab with other products just because I try to only put my name behind pTGC and UFO. But we do have tons of community members who do more of a collaboration, or, some of the community members are in other ecosystems, right? To where a community member might be willing to do that. Me personally, I put all my balls in this court. I don't really venture out into other areas due to the fact that the space, right? I just don't want to tie my name to things that I don't necessarily know every detail of or have control of, or even in part of the success or fall of. But there is people within PulseChain, within the pTGC ecosystem, who probably are not against educating your community on pTGC, especially educating your community on pTGC while you educate them on what you're building, to where it's kind of a give or take, like, hey, let us show you this awesome tech that we have that's exclusive to PulseChain. You show us, I'm assuming, the awesome tech that you have over on your blockchain and with your product, and we can educate each other and work together to win. I'm definitely not the right person for that. Like I said, I'm pretty stubborn as far as just sitting in my camp and just specifically educating on pTGC and UFO. But there is people within our ecosystem, I'm sure, that would be open to it.
That's Daniel, awesome, Dragon. Thank you so much.
Hey, Daniel, you can reach out to me if you want to talk.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you. But also, Grace, thank you for letting me know and stuff like that. I'm eager to listen to what you guys have to say, and I love the energy here, and I love what you guys are doing. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming up. Thanks for supporting, and again, good or not again, but good luck with everything you're doing as well. I wish the blockchain you're on and your projects the best success that you guys do.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Likewise.
Thank you.
All right. Now that we got the shill tank for Casper and the new pump dot fund hitting that blockchain, good to hear you, Daniel. Do we have any? Did you already go Prairie over through everything in terms of up to date information that we would be pulling? I see that the new teddy pair, I think, has done over 12,000 in volume today, and is up great for the protocol. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, we did look at that on secretobank.com. I think I think that's we looked at a die
Sorry,
pair.
Banana. Try to speak again. I accidentally muted you.
Yeah, we looked at the die pair that we have $5,000 in volume in, and then which pair? How do I find the pair that you referred to, the teddy pair? Is it bear or is it teddy?
It's Teddy, but it would be on Deck Screener where the proper aggregator is, or where it's pulling the proper data from.
Oh, okay.
I think he's on Secreto Bank. It should be populating on Secreto Bank. It was yesterday, Banana.
Yeah, I see them. Actually, they're right next to each other. So Teddy Bear Slant PTDC has $6,500 in volume, and then Teddy Slant PTDC has $11,400 in 24-hour volume.
Awesome.
And each of their liquidity for each of them is about $85,000. But yeah, we had not covered that. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, this is a little good example of like how these liquidity pools work. And when you're paired with something that goes up, that liquidity obviously increases. So I'm just going to use it for educational purposes. When we paired with that Teddy, I think our system put 15K into it on the one side, and then we had 15K of pTGC on the other side, equaling a 30K liquidity pool. And we got in at roughly, I think, a $1 million market cap with that pair. Within the first day, it created over, I believe it was over $100,000 of volume. The second day, I think it was around $50,000 a day in volume. And I think the following 2 days, it was over $10,000 of volume each day. So the token technically has already generated as much value that we've put into it as far as, paying our system back for the 15K that was spent on it. But now, since that asset is, 5x up from that entry point, that liquidity is actually not even only 30K now. It's actually closer to, I forget what you said, but 70K or something like that. Mm-hmm. So that liquidity pool increased in size, not because we've added to it, but because of the asset we're connected to going up in price. Even though everything else we're connected to has been somewhat stagnant, they're up a little bit as well, like PulseChain, PulseX, since the creation of this. But since this has gone up so much, you can actually see it becoming more of an alpha pool in our system, right? It was one of the smallest pools, and now it's actually catching up with some of the LP pools that we've had for years now, right? And that's the benefit of pairing with things that have the opportunity of going upwards, or that are going upwards and has a strong community or a building community going. They don't only have volume and volatility, which is great for our system, right? We generate revenue off of this. We've pretty much already paid ourselves back the 15K that we spent on this only 4 days in, and now we can generate revenue off of this for the rest of the existence of the chain. But more importantly, like, that asset's actually going up. So that liquidity pool is actually growing, which actually turns into a larger pool, which makes it to where market makers now need to move even more money through it to fix prices, which makes it to where we generate more money. And it's also helped appreciate the price of the pTGC token. Not a lot, right? This is a tail to the dog scenario. pTGC is still the dog. This teddy pair is the tail. So it's not going to really move the dog, but it has helped in a very little amount, right? And if it keeps going up, which I don't know if it will or won't, don't have the future, but if it keeps going up, that pool will continue to increase in size, making it to where it's generating even more revenue for our system, and also has more weight over our liquidity web.
Well, and just talk about the process. It took, you had to take 15 grand in Pulse, buy pTGC. That pays the system. Then you take some of the Pulse and you buy Teddy, and then you pair it. And it was just under a $30,000 LP. Now that LP is 90 grand. And like you said, it's already paid for itself. and now it's generating about between 100,000 and 12,000 a day in revenue or in volume. So it's just you're taking pTGC off the market, you're making it go to work. The only way you can get at that pTGC and that LP is to reach into that LP and pull it out, which means more volume, right? Each leg is just adding another money printer to the system. And I love the how quick the pivot power is on this system. It's just proving itself out. And I'm just looking at an $85 million market cap at a 400-week moving average dip through on ETH, and looks like a very cool reversal. And when you're looking at a 10x with $10 million pushed into the mean of the chain, and that puts you into massive new all-time highs for pTGC, it just gets to a point to where, you have to ask yourself the question, what else is there that you can trust that has the amount of data that you can look at for some really awesome KPIs? If you're really looking at, as an investor, and being able to track key performance indicators and data over longer periods of time. The thing I love about pTGC is that it deployed 18 plus months ago, and there's just so much information that you can really dive into. And it's transparent. It's unchangeable, and it's transparent. And we're at a point right now, guys, where everything just seems to be like, massive bottomed out at mega well below mega sacrificers prices. When Richard talks about shaking out weak hands, I said this all the time, hindsight's always 20/20. When you're talking about shaking out weak hands, and I know that people get sick of hearing this, but you're obviously not talking about shaking out the guys who sacrificed $500. You're talking about the guys that actually have the potential to draw down the price, right? So it's not a coincidence, in my opinion, that the price went below those people's prices, and then you hit an Ethereum 400-week moving average. It bounces off. Richard's comments come on the same day as Ethereum hitting the 400-week moving average on Twitter, and now we're looking at a potential reversal here. It's just kind of exciting right where we're at right now.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. They can't hear me. I'm ready to shut it down.
Yeah, it definitely is exciting, Mando. I do look at, this dip of PulseChain as being a blessing for the pTGC and UFO ecosystem, the chance that, or the idea that we do have the ability to generate more revenue at these low levels. You can see PLS flowing into the DAO at faster rates than ever before. We're able to buy and burn large amounts at these lower prices. We're able to pair with assets at the lows, which obviously gives us max Hart's law effect. And another amazing part about the dip coming here this late is it's actually giving users who, wanted a little bit more data on the system before they went into the system to still get an awesome discounted price, right? Like some people, for an example, wanted to find out more about pTGC or UFO and actually learn about it or have a year and a half of data to look at before putting value into it. Well, a lot of them were like, oh, well, the price is up. Like, I don't want to buy the top. Well, how is a 90% discount or an 80%, 70% discount due to the market reversing? Like now you have a year and a half of amazing data. You see what the machine is. You see the transparent. You can see that everything we've been educating people on is 100% true. And you're getting a massive dip, not necessarily due to, people have taken profits with pTGC and UFO. I think that's pretty transparent. but a lot of the dip is from PulseChain also going down, and from the ETH going down, and from Bitcoin going down. So the whole entire market is actually giving these people that needed some more data and needed to see the machine actually run for this amount of time to still get an awesome price on the asset. And the awesome thing about the awesome price is, due to the evidence that we have in the past, every time PulseChain's hit these super low levels, even though PulseChain has only gone up 3 to 5x off of these lows, PTGC has continuously went up 45x off of these lows. And I do believe the next run up of PulseChain should be a little bit bigger than a 3 to 5x. Could it be a 10x, 20x, 50x? I really don't know, right? But it is set up for a good push. And if you look at all the data, if PulseChain has a bigger push this next run, that should mean PTGC and UFO have the bigger push than it's ever had before. And this might be one of the last opportunities before that push actually happens. Because if PulseChain does a push and never comes back to these levels again, that might mean that the next lowest price, let's say it's in the next bear market of PTGC, might be never even or anywhere close to the prices that we're looking at today. It might land 20x higher, 30x higher, 10x higher, 50x higher. Really is unknown, right? We don't know how much success PulseChain is going to have this cycle. Don't completely know how much success PTGC is going to have this cycle too. I think it is dependent somewhat on the quantity of success of PulseChain, even though we have tons of X's we do on our own. But it should be an interesting ride, that's for sure. And just due to past history, if you scoop up at the bottoms of PulseChain before it does its next move, those have been the lows.
Well, when you look at the price, man, on PulseChain, when it hit its second low, like its second bottom, that was back in September, right? PTGC was basically at the same price that it is right now. It was just creating its first all-time highs right there, right? The difference is now now you're at an $85 million market cap, but you're not looking at a PulseChain that is at, 3 zeros and a 3 or 4 zeros and a 3. You're looking at it down at 4 zeros and a 2-4, and it went down even further than that, right? So the market, because the way the mechanics work, it's just so interesting because with every ebb and flow of the blockchain can keep going lower, but because of how the system works, every time that there's a reversal, the market cap for PTGC ends up being way higher, so the value of the tokens are higher, even while the blockchain is lower. So when you have a reversal of the blockchain, the X multiplier is just more. So right now we're sitting at an $85 million market cap, and just a 5x of an $85 million market cap is a $425 million market cap. And I hope people can, you might want to expound on that, Zen, because you're good at that. But there's something unique happening with the mechanics of PTGC that most people just would not know. And it's actually a benefit to a degree when you look at it from that standpoint. The fact that, you can have a triple bottom and then it go lower to kind of potentially tap out here. But the fact that PTGC is sitting at an $85 million market cap, that means that the blockchain only has to do so much X for PTGC to do X amount of X. And that's even before you talk about the actual X that the protocol itself will do. So it's just getting very interesting sitting here at almost, just under $100 million market cap and thinking, my God, if PulseChain just does X amount of X, what does that mean for token holders?
Yeah, I look at it as the lower PulseChain goes, if you can find the bottom of PulseChain, it makes the X multiplier on PTGC that much greater, right? That much easier. So the best example is around this time, I think it's 14 months ago or 13 months ago, that was like the all-time high of PulseChain besides the wick when it first launched, besides the wick when PulseChain first came out, right? This is when RH injected, I think, like $30 million into the chain, etc. Well, if we just stayed at SAC rate, let's say we're at this market cap right now and PulseChain was at SAC rate. Well, to all-time highs, that would just be a 2x, right? 2x multiplier. Well, the fact that PulseChain has came so far down to this level, but we're still maintaining this 85 million market cap, tells me, okay, well, to old all-time highs, what it was last time this year, 13 months back, that's a 10x. We have yet to even see PulseChain do a 10x since it's launched. So now we're a 10x away from all-time highs. If PulseChain does a 10x, well, that's going to technically put pTGC at probably $800, $900 million market cap. So we're going to blow past all-time highs. But let's factor in if you look at the past performance, when PulseChain's done a 5x, we've done a 45x. So we've consistently done 10x multipliers on PulseChain running previously every single time. We currently, even since August, are up 11x against PulseChain. So let's just say, for an example, PulseChain goes to all-time highs. We continue to just do what we've been doing, nothing more, nothing less, 10x multiplier. That's pTGC holders from this price doing a 100x. Do you know what a 100x to our market cap would be? Where we would be sitting? $9 billion. pTGC would be sitting at a $9 billion market cap with enough liquidity to actually back it. We would have probably more DEX liquidity than every token that exists in the top 100, I'm pretty sure, besides, ETH and stuff like that, right? I just mean like alt tokens, right? Not blockchains, etc. So we wouldn't only be knocking on the biggest players' doors as far as market cap. We'd be knocking on their doors as far as liquidity. We might even be knocking on their doors as far as volume because we can mechanically drive volume based on our liquidity. We also will be knocking on their doors as far as buying birds. We could be buying hundreds of thousands of dollars daily at that point. Imagine a grassroots PulseChain product knocking on the doors of the biggest players in the games with an alien head logo right smack dab in the middle. It would be an awesome story. And it doesn't even matter what the story is because then the machine will just keep going and going and going and going and no one can shut it off. PulseChain would have to get shut off. PulseX would have to get shut off. Liquidity's burnt. The web's moving. It's fully decentralized.
It's getting exciting.
And the funny thing about it is those numbers I'm saying is that's PulseChain only doing a 10x from the lows of the lows. That's a 2x SAC rate. So all is we need to make this happen is a 2x SAC rate. Rewind 2 years, Mando, and if I told you all we needed to knock on the biggest players' doors in cryptos is a 2x SAC rate, would you believe me?
No.
I wouldn't have believed you. I absolutely know that to be a fact now.
Yeah, that's what I mean is it's crazy that all pTGC and UFO really need to be one of the biggest tokens that exists is a 2x SAC rate. And that's due to the fact that PulseChain's gone so low and we've been able to accumulate all these RH assets at the bottom while also supporting them, right? This isn't only it's not a just take relationship. It's a symbiotic relationship. We are helping the RH tickers while they're also helping our system. We're buying them off the market, increasing their value, taking them off of the market that people are going to sell in the future because we're not going to sell them. We're just going to use them as liquidity to generate revenue for our system. But we ultimately, with just a 2x SAC rate, can have one of the biggest protocols that exist. That could be 100x from the prices today. And most importantly, there's actually liquidity to back that 100x. It's not a situation where you get 100x and only one guy gets actually those X's and the rest get left holding the bags. We'll have some of the largest liquidity pools in all of crypto. We will easily be past Shiba Inu's DEX liquidity pools, the biggest meme coin that exists that's not a blockchain.
I'm gonna let y'all know right now. If you run a Shiba Inu, when it was at its peak, the amount of volume that was going on through there was absolutely ridiculous. Once people found out about Shiba Inu, it was wow.
Yeah,
But, you know, it was wow.
Yeah, and B, I think that you know, I think that I think that Richard Hart is oversold. I think that when he comes out as a winner and he's able to hold his head high as somebody who did everything right, I think that his brand is way oversold. And I think that when he shows up, you know, how many founders are showing up actually saying something outside of, you know, fighting the SEC? I mean, frankly, that's been the founders showing up, unless you're watching Vitalik on a stage doing his, you know, weirdo twerk or something. But, you know,
I would say the only one that really showed up this bull market, nah, he really didn't have he showed up, but not in a very make price go up type way. I would say Justin's son. Now, whether you like him or not, or agree with him or not, but if you look at his chart, it actually has been in an up-trending market since like 2022, 2023. Even in the bear market, it's been an up thing. But you saw the way Justin's son came in, and the whole market went to Tron. And it was only for like 2 weeks he showed up. But that just gives you an example. If he would have stayed there and they were like, you know, keep showing up, you know, like Tron did a big jump for those 2 weeks. I think what happens is when Richard Hart does show back up, you're going to see that and then some, but you're going to see that with like a follow-up. It's just not like 2 weeks and then he disappeared. Because Justin's son came in for like 2 weeks and he kind of disappeared a little bit. But I don't think that happens with Richard Hart. So you're going to get that big boost. But I think the difference between the two is one sticks with it and continues doing what he's doing, whereas Justin's son kind of does his typical, like, hey guys, pump a dump, and then that's it. So
yeah, it's the stage is set for RH to always want to do what he's always wanted to do at this point. Like, you know, and I think that his brand is oversold, and that when he actually is able to show back up, and, you know, it's like what you say a lot of the times too. Like, look at the amount of following. It's not massive. And there's so many people in crypto who don't even know who Richard even is, because he hasn't been able to talk. He hasn't been able to do anything for so long. And when he's able to show back up, you're going to get a lot of people for the first time being introduced to him, you know, if this actually does happen. And that's going to bring a lot of eyeballs, man, you know. So it'll be interesting. But I do think that Rand, because Rand's running a business and eyeballs make money, and everybody wants to hear from RH post SEC anyway. To me, Rand's always had him on, no matter how much people hated him. That's a massive catalyst. Same was when you went on and introduced PulseChain and introduced Teddy, right? So we know what happens.
it'll be fun. It'll be interesting. I just hope the timing lines up with it. And, you know, I need to see that 86,000. You know, the TA needs to line up with it. If the TA lines up with the fundamentals, those are the biggest pops.
I mean, well, we're looking at, you know, this coming up week, right?
Yeah, I'd like to see it close over, I believe it's 86,000. I see that, I'll be Like everything looks good because you time that up with the case. The case lines up, then he can stream again. That lines up with the market bouncing. That's those scenarios where everything lines up perfectly and everything does well. This is why it baffles me the way things have been handled out in the last 2 or 3 months, because the way things are lining up is a scenario where, like, could have won big, could have won very well, like very big, but now you're just looking at it, it's just like, hey, some people had to pivot, we had a little downturn, and now, those that pivoted is doing very well for themselves. And is going to do very well for themselves because now's the time. And when you see that, it's like, man, hindsight's only going to be 2020. So the only people that are willing to see it are going to be the ones that are able to pivot, but everybody's going to see it when you look back at the chart and you look at the dates of the scenarios of what happened in the last few months. So I think pTGC did the right thing. I think UFO did the right thing. I think people that are in Teddy did the right thing. And at the end of the day, I think everyone's going to realize who was right and who was wrong. And then you'll have your story. But the thing with crypto is you can't go back in time. So which side of history are you on at the end of the day?
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, I do need to be shutting it down here. If anyone has any questions or comments to kind of finish out this space, I need to get going.
Yeah.
I just want to say, man, go ahead, Perry.
I was going to say, I'm good with that.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, man, awesome little sneak peek on this new site, man. This new website. I know it's just kind of a real first mock-up type thing, but it looks pretty badass, man.
Yeah, thank you. It's actually done by a Grace community member. He's one of your subscribers, Moon King. Actually, he was actually going to ask you, I think, in the future, if when it becomes further along, if you would like him to kind of go through a demo on your subscriber thing, if you have 10 minutes or something like that. But it is cool just seeing our community grow and people that have specific skill sets, kind of just step up and start delivering for the pTGC protocol with their specific, skill sets.
Hey, Zen, check your Telegram DMs and let me know the answer to that. Just because there's a lot of scammy DMs I get, so I just want to make sure everything's legit as far as that person and everything.
Hold on. Yeah.
It's just hard for me to know. I just wanted to be double sure.
That's him.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. He's the one that pretty much has been designing this whole thing. He's one of the Grays community members. I believe he found Grays through you. I think he's definitely one of your subscribers now, and he was asking me if I would be cool with it, and I was just like, well, it's not if I'm cool with it, you know what I mean? It's B's subscribers, so you'll have to see if he's cool with it.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be. I just got to figure out how to do that, but freaking.
I don't think it's right now or anything.
It's like X sucks. It's like it's such a pain in the head. Like X messed up all my subscribers because I guess they transferred over to XAI. So, a bunch of people had to do some things, and a bunch of people had to fall off and then come back on, and it's just a big pain with this whole XAI thing. So it'd be nice if I had customer service. Like I probably have. I'm not gonna say I'm one of the biggest in all of X, but I've got a pretty big subscriber following, and they're taking a lot of money. So you would think I would have direct customer service. No. It's horrible. So for as much money that's coming in, you would think that I could have the access to someone to ask a question, but I don't even have that. So we just got to figure out a way to do it.
Yeah. Customer
so
service is overhead costs, and with tech is actually shifting from no overhead costs to minimal overhead costs means maximum amounts of profits. So
at least have an AI bot that knows how to answer questions. At least, I mean, like, I don't even have that.
You don't have, bro. You're about to have option. You're about to have an option of picking up the phone, be rude. This is awesome.
I just want somebody to pick up the phone at this point. It's like I got a bunch of people saying it charged me, it didn't charge me, I'm subscribed, but I'm not getting charged. Like, it's like all kinds of stuff. Like, it's so many different things going on. I might need an assistant or something.
Yeah. Well, Stan, man, appreciate you holding the space. Everything's looking great. It's getting very interesting. It's getting very fun to kind of watch the market do what it's doing here. I think we got to watch what Bitcoin does this coming up week. Let's see if it gets over to 86,000. Let's see if we can get this market back bullish, guys.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks for coming up, everyone. Banana, thanks for co-hosting. B, thanks for coming and just sharing, the charting and the alpha and everything you do. Mando, thanks for being up here too. I appreciate it.
100%. Enjoy your day, family, man. See you guys later. Thanks for coming in, guys.
All right. See ya. That's it. I agree with you, Polygon, that we don't need RH to stream, but you know what it would do? It pumped the chart. That would be wonderful. But aside from that, I think all of us could stand to hear from the leadership, if I can put it that way. And I know this is DeFi, yeah. But still, it's nice. It's nice to have that, the leadership, and he knows that. He knows what needs, RH knows what needs to be done. And I hope he comes back. But yes, I'm with you. We don't need him to stream. We don't need him to pump his chain. And we definitely don't need to expect those two things. If they happen, wonderful. If they don't, we're still going to have green candles. Yeah, man. That was a good spaces. And I appreciate you guys being here. If you got anybody that you want to send to my AMA tomorrow, we're going to do a presentation on pTGC. We'll just talk about pTGC. We'll probably mention some of the things that happened on the spaces today. May you all have a wonderful Saturday, or whatever day it is, in whatever part of the world you're in. And we will see you again. We'll have spaces again on Monday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific. See you guys. Bye.